Schumacher gets his 7th Formula One World Championship on a truly eventful day.
It's a glittering 7 stars on his cap now as the magnificent world champion leads the Ferrari homecoming. But beware Juan Pablo Montoya. He's posted the fastest lap in F1 history. Average speed close to 163 miles an hour. Pole sitter Rubens Barrichello, for once, wants to step out of his teammate's shadow.
That's a tremendous lap there by Rubens Barrichello, looking for his 2nd pole position of the season. He split the 2 Ferraris. Juan Montoya is on the front row at Monza.
What a big change, though, to those conditions for qualifying. We have had hours of heavy rain on race day. It has just stopped for the last European race of F1 2004, the Italian Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon to you all from Monza, the fastest track on the calendar, the citadel of speed set in the Royal Park of Monza just outside Milan in northern Italy. Those tifosi, the fanatical Ferrari fans, are coming here to celebrate. But Tony, they've had a right old drenching this morning and this place is positively evil in the wet.
It's treacherous. And you've got all the cars have been in parc fermé. They're on dry setups, so with little rear wings. You run with very little downforce here. But I was speaking to Alan Permain just a little while ago, Trulli's engineer. Because of climatic regulations, they'll be allowed to change onto wets if they want to, or they want to risk intermediates. They can have some work on the brake ducts. They can change the front wing, but not the rear wing. Even so, here in damp conditions, the last damp one in 81, John Watson had a big crash Curva Grande. The car broke in 2. It's a dangerous place.
Right, particularly under the trees. It just never seems to get dry there, does it?
Doesn't drain away. It's very bad for drainage, and you could have some standing water out there as well.
Right, let's just look back at qualifying in the dry. First of all, the Ferraris. Barrichello on pole by a massive margin, over half a second. How did he do that?
Well, first of all, tremendous setup on the car. He might be a little bit light on fuel, almost the perfect lap, and that delighted Ferrari. But what they really wanted was an all-Ferrari front row here on their homecoming after cleaning up in both the championships. But there, coming through the Parabolica, Michael Schumacher made a little mistake and he ended up only 3rd. Now, he's a little bit upset by that, but still, I'm sure they've got a great strategy and they'll go to battle and try and get a 1-2 if they can.
Fernando Alonso in the Renault that always starts so quickly says he is surprised to be on the 2nd row. Do you share that surprise?
I'm not surprised because they've got great engine speed here from the Renault. It's very good under acceleration. It's very good on its rear tyres, which take huge pressure here. And they've done a lot of work on the car in the 3 days of testing last week. And what's more, little Fernando said we're going for an aggressive strategy. And you know, when he says that, he means we're going for it.
Sure, that's been handling particularly well in the corners. Juan Pablo Montoya created a Formula One record here, the quickest single lap of all time. That was in pre-qualifying, we must point out. Average speed, 163 miles an hour.
Just phenomenal. We're talking about an absolute rocket here, but the FIA are saying we have to arrest the progress. Talking about doing over 230 miles per hour right there, and there's Frank enjoying that moment. But the cars are getting too fast for the circuit. In qualifying, he went out and did it again. He did a 19.5 in pre-qual. He did just over 20 to get on the front row of the grid and get a 2nd position. But this is why you've got to slow the cars down, because the circuits can't keep up.
Montoya won the first race of his career in 2001. I remember a magnificent battle he had with Michael Schumacher early in the race through those crucial early corners last year.
It was tremendous, and we've seen it sometimes this year as well. They did it at Imola, where they came together and went down to Tosa. And this is the great thing about Juan Pablo Montoya. And we have this in prospect today, even though Michael's starting from 3rd place. Look at that. He only just got through after 3 bends, banging wheels together. That's what we want to see.
It's a really tight grid, isn't it, Tony? Before we hear from the drivers, just talk us through it, could you?
Barrichello's 11th career pole puts him ahead of Montoya's fastest ever record-breaking Williams. Schumacher 3rd after a mistake. Alonso 4th. 5th, Sato out-qualifies Button in one of the closest grids. Just 7/10 of a second separates the top 8 of Raikkonen and Pitsonia. 9th, Trulli, he's gone conservative. 10th, Coulthard's McLaren. 11th, Zonta. 12th, Webber in the Jag, who said too many straights for us. 13th, Panis in his last Italian Grand Prix. And 14th, Klein. 15th, Fisichella said he was too conservative. 16th, his Sauber teammate Massa. 17th, Pantano ran wide at Ascari. 18th, Bruni's Minardi. 19th, Paul Baumgartner, a chicane penalty and chassis write-off. And last, Heidfeld after 2 engine changes.
if I get the chance to get to the first and the second corner first, I might have a chance to open up a gap. If not, then it's going to be the strategy, because overtaking here with 3 or 4 kilometers difference in terms of top speed won't be enough to overtake. So let's spray the whole night.
I think we've got a very good pace, but I think everybody's got a very good pace. I think the race is going to be quite close, and it could be one strategy. You know, I think Ferrari could be a little bit more consistent than us, but you know, we'll see.
Montoya's ahead of you on the grid, split the 2 Ferraris. How much of a challenge do you expect him to be during the race?
He's going to be strong. No, I don't underestimate their performance. Though on starts we looked very good, particularly against them. So I hope we're going to be leaving the first 2 corners 1-2.
It's very difficult here in Monza to get the maximum, because you run over the curbs a lot, and it's difficult with this level of downforce. But yeah, I think it was a clear lap with no mistakes.
I had a little bit slide in Ascari's chicane, so it cost us a little bit. But even so, I think 50 is a good position.
4 races to go then for Sato and the rest. If Barrichello wins this afternoon and Button fails to score, the Brazilian is runner-up. Ferrari have that perfect season. Trulli's stalled as he prepares for a likely new career at Toyota. Alonso's in shape to overtake his Renault teammate. Montoya's heading for McLaren. He'll want to maintain that gap to Raikkonen and Coulthard. Sato and Fisichella level on 18. Meantime, in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari have won 6 in a row now. BAR still very much in the hunt with Renault for best of the rest. It's very close between Williams and McLaren as well. Sauber looking good for 6. Jaguar, Toyota and Jordan all dicing for the places above Minardi. Well, now your chance to experience one of the rides of the season. It's in the dry as well. Martin Brundle's on board with today's pole sitter, Rubens Barrichello, the only man to have finished every race this season. It's flat out, pedal to the metal for over 70% of the lap, top speed just shy of 225 miles an hour, and mind those body-jarring curves.
3.6 miles ahead of us then for Rubens Barrichello's 11th pole position in Formula 1, 227 miles now, looking for your braking point into the first chicane. Just snatches the front wheel, he's on the ragged edge of retardation, clean over the curbs, straighten the car up, brilliant traction, heading into the Curva Grande, about 150 miles an hour already, 180 on the exit, 210 before he gets down to the second chicane in the shadow of the canopy of the trees. Heavy braking then, down to about 70 miles an hour, neatly balancing the car over the curbs. The 2 Lesmos ahead, 100 miles an hour through the first one. It's all about smoothness and balance and using all of the track available. You've got to be very accurate in the second one, which he is. Now he's accelerating gently downhill initially before climbing up to the Ascari chicane. 215 miles an hour. Watch the grip as he launches the car into the left-hander. Superb. Direction change good. Ride the curb on the exit. Gently bring the car over to the left-hand side after the worst of the bumps. Into the Parabolica. 215 miles an hour once again. Watch this. Barely enough time to get the downshifts out of the way before the corner hits him right in the face. Straight back on the throttle pedal. Start-finish line ahead of him. It's about now. He's wishing he'd have carried a lot more fuel. He's so much faster than anybody else. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but he starts from pole position.
That track will be a very different proposition today. The Monza podium is absolutely great, by the way. Stretches out over the crowd, and Rubens Barrichello's been on it for the last 3 years. Well, this weekend we are meeting the McLaren team here on ITV F1. We really do mean meeting the team as well. David Coulthard's your host.
Good morning. Every weekend you see the public face of the team, which are the drivers, but very rarely do you get to see behind the scenes. So we're going to take a look in the McLaren Communication Centre at some of the people that make the race team tick.
Well, as we walk inside the impressive atrium of the Communication Centre, we start off with the tyre support crew, and there you have Steve Cook, or his nickname of Tats, as you can see from his arms. Looking very proud at the front there. We move on to the data acquisition guys. They're all the boffins, so big heads and small bodies. Race engineers standing up there above everyone else, you know, ready to be shot down if they make any mistakes in strategy. Mercedes Elmore on the right-hand side, we have Tim White, my race engineer. And on to the most important part of the team, we have Absolute Taste. They make sure that the whole team is well fed and watered. Marketing, which obviously take care of all the sponsors and partners of the team. And then on to those who make the communication centre work and build us all together. And Becky Biffin at the end there was celebrating her last race for the team.
So, you've met all of the team here in Monza, but don't let's forget that part of the iceberg which sits below the surface, all the people back in Woking who underpin the performance of McLaren.
Aside from support for the cars, McLaren makes sure its drivers are looked after too. Mark Arnell is Kimi Raikkonen's personal trainer and knows the driver dubbed the Iceman better than most.
Of course, there's lots of different work to do, not only the driving but the PR work, and of course it's not the nicest thing to do before the race. So I just do what I think is right thing to do, and just try to drive the car as fast as I can.
He's passionate about it, although he probably wouldn't admit that so much. But it's also a very relaxed attitude. He doesn't get stressed about it. Because he enjoys it so much. It's what his life has been about for so long.
I don't need anyone to telling me what I should do or what I shouldn't do, and they don't need to try to push me to drive as quick as I can.
You can almost see it sort of looking into his eyes that what he's concentrating on is the driving, the circuit, and it's very difficult for other things to penetrate that, which I think is a massive asset.
I'm a greedy man. Greedy man. I'm a greedy man.
All of us are different, so I feel maybe very excited inside, but maybe I don't want to jump around there and do what I think is right for me.
Kimi wants to be the best he can be. He wants to win races, he wants to win the championship, and that is his goal and that is his focus. And I'm sure one day when he wins the championship, you might see him smile more on the podium.
But of course it hurts on that moment, but I don't think it too much, because what can you do? You cannot change it anymore, so it's just wasting your energy.
Initially, he'll show his frustration, but within 15 minutes to half an hour, he's normally quite relaxed about it.
I got ants in my pants and I need to dance. Come on.
It's nice to do. Of course, some days you don't feel like you want to do, and then I don't do it, and it's easiest then.
When we're training together in terms out on a bike or running or whatever else, it gets a little bit more competitive, and he wants to win, as he does with everything. On a bike ride, I'm normally watching his little butt disappear into the distance, and maybe running, things like that. It's a different story.
I don't often think about Formula 1 when I go and do my other things, because I have enough Formula 1 in my life anyhow. It's same, I think, so in every other work. You cannot just work, you need to have your own time also, so it's important.
He wants to have a life of his own as well as have a life in Formula 1, and in some respects that's quite difficult to have, because you've got the racing, you've got the testing, you've got the promotions. When you include the training as well that's got to be done, there's not a lot of time left after that to really just have a normal life, and he's quite determined to hang on to that.
I'm happy what I'm doing, and I make my own decisions. So I'm not going to try to be like someone else. So hopefully I take the right choices and everything goes well.
Both the McLaren drivers have a private area here in the communication centre where they can relax during the race weekend. David's kindly invited us into his room for a look around. It's kind of compact, isn't it? But you've got all the toys a boy could want.
Yeah, there's obviously not a lot of space, but you've got to try and create the areas for both the drivers. We have a little wet room in between as well, so we can shower after the sessions. I have monitors, videos. I can actually look at onboard stuff and watch what's going on the track, everything from here, and listen to your voice as well if I'm out of the race.
What kind of videos do you watch?
Well, they tend to be racing videos, so here we have Magny Cours 2004.
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm here to do a job, so I'm not really here to hang out. So It's just an area that's quiet and private and allows us to focus on the race.
I noticed you've got a little mirror in here as well. Is that so you can check your hair before you do TV interviews?
Very important. I'm going to make sure I'm looking good.
Yeah, always looks immaculate, does DC. He starts 10th on the grid, still dry. Just about half an hour to go to the start of the Italian Grand Prix. The winner here back in 1988 in a Ferrari was Gerhard Berger, one of quite a few familiar faces around the paddock. Here's Gerhard Berger chatting to Ted.
Gerhard, what is it like driving around here in the wet?
Well, it's quite difficult because you still have to run quite very low downforce. On the straights you have small rivers, so you have a lot of aquaplaning. It's challenging.
Dangerous.
Dangerous, yeah. I didn't want to say dangerous, but it's challenging.
So what can they do? What can Williams do to try and stay safe and finish the race?
It's not a lot you can do. The driver can do a bit to stay on the surface. But well, I think it's okay because it's not really raining, so it's damp and it's wet a bit, but you don't have bottles. So I think it's gonna be okay. And if the sun comes a bit out, maybe it gets into the conditions where people start to think already to put a dry tire on, and then it's fine.
Thanks, Gerhard.
Well, here's another familiar face, Gerhard's former Ferrari teammate, Jean Alesi. Jean, obviously all the Tifosi's attention has been on Michael Schumacher of late. What do you reckon to his achievement? 7 World Championships.
You know, we're a big friend, and I always tell him it's even more difficult to speak about him because he's just winning and having the World Championship every year. So I don't know what to say about that. You know, it's amazing what's happening.
How do you rate his chances today? Starting third, is these conditions going to suit him?
Very much, and especially because of the tyres he's using. I think he's in the best position to win.
Thanks, Jean. Lovely to see you.
Two great characters there, Tony. John Alesi would have loved these conditions, wouldn't he?
Well, he had pole position here before now, and he would have revelled in them. The thing about Jean, he's still winning in the German Touring Car Championship, and Gerhard had that wonderful 1-2 here. He led home the Ferrari just after Enzo Ferrari had died, so that was very significant. Of course, the fans went absolutely wild, and they loved Gerhard.
Let's come back to the present. The unluckiest man in Formula One at the moment has to be the Hungarian Zsolt Baumgartner, who drives for Minardi. They've been using him for target practice in Spa and here.
I mean, what are the chances of that happening twice in a couple of weeks? This happened to him at Spa, 200 miles per hour. Jenson Button blows a tyre, goes into Zsolt. If he hadn't gone into Zsolt, he'd have got into the barriers. Zsolt was just coming out on a slow lap, and Pantano came down the straight, locked up at 230 miles per hour, shoots across the infield. Shades of Sato and Heidfeld in Austria a couple of years ago, and bashes into him. Rights off the chassis, but it's the speed differential. It's that first bend which is so dangerous going into the chicane. Everyone's got to have to watch out at the start as they funnel through there.
Minardi haven't got money to spare, have they?
They haven't, Jim. And the other thing is they've got to send all the freight, all the cars this Thursday off to China. It's a race against time for Paul Stoddart and the Minardi team.
Let's have a word, shall we, with Zsolt Baumgartner himself.
Well, Zsolt, what's it like? You're just going along quite happily, and then you get hit by someone. What does that feel like?
Yeah, that feels very bad and quite surprising, and it was very close to a serious injury, and I'm very happy that no one of us has a serious injury. That was a big shunt with a big speed difference. My chassis was broken as well, so it was really a hard accident. It was much more serious than the last week one in Spa with Jenson.
Well, let's hope for some better luck today. How do you think you're going to go in these damp conditions?
For us, it doesn't look too bad in damp conditions. We were quick in wet situation in Spa, quicker than usual, and I hope we can be quicker here as well. So I hope to stay in front of some of the cars who run Michelin.
Thanks, Zsolt.
Yes, Zsolt Baumgartner starting down the back of the grid. Plenty of support for Minardi, Italy's second team. Well, here in Monza, it's been announced that Olivier Panis's racing career is coming to a close. The 38-year-old Frenchman will no longer be driving that Toyota. He starts 13th this afternoon. Been a really good servant to many teams, but he's calling it a day at the end of the season. Here's Olivier Panis and Louise Goodman.
It must have been quite a difficult decision to come to.
Well, it was, but at the end of the day I need to take a decision. Maybe I said, well, maybe I'll continue one more here, maybe I stop now. After Monaco I started thinking, talking with the family, talking with the management, and in Monaco I decided, look, now I think I retired because I did a lot of work. The Formula One schedule was very, very busy. I did my best for everybody I drive. And I enjoy really my time. When I say 11 here in Formula 1, 160 Grand Prix at the end of this year, I say, okay, now is the time, because I want also to profit about everything I miss a little bit. But I'm very happy to take the decision. And after that, all the top management to Toyota come back with some different idea, particularly Mike. And I say, oh, why not? I mean, for sure, I don't want to racing anymore. But if you have a little bit lighter schedule and to continue to help the team, I'm really happy to do it. And we find the agreement to be reserve drivers, because he know me, he know my speed and the motivation I have if he need me. But the priority is to be test driver to help the team to continue to grow up.
He'll be a good ambassador at Toyota. Good guy, Olivier Panis. His career included a spell as test driver here at McLaren as well. Well, last season, you might remember, we waited all season for the new McLaren that never arrived. This time around, though, since the new 19B was unveiled at the French Grand Prix in early July, McLaren have been a bit more like their old selves.
McLaren have caught up 2 seconds a lap on Ferrari from their poor pace at the start of the year. The new car, the 19B, claimed fastest lap in Spa and is now a race-winning chassis.
The 19B was the car that I in particular wanted right from the start. It was just a matter of getting it produced and getting it out there. But basically it's the car we wanted, and it's something to build for next year.
For sure, the team has done a very good job when we bring the 19B out. It has been a big improvements in the speed and also reliability. But even it's not 100% there yet, but this is good, and we're going definitely the right direction.
A win from 7th on the grid might be tough this afternoon, but the lap times suggest the McLaren is fuelled heavier than its.
I don't know what the other teams are doing, how much fuel they're carrying, and we only know what we did. So I think so the lap was good, so I had maybe went a little bit too quick in the last corner, so hopefully we are in a good position.
But now F1 is entering a period of big rule change. Adrian Newey's famous for taking advantage of the new regulations, and the 05 chassis is already built. Will it also be a winner?
One has to rely on, if you like, intuition and informed guesswork. And one of the tests for next year will be who manages to do that best. From that point of view, it's more of a different car than it would have been had we not had the regulation changes, but it will still bear a family resemblance to the 19B.
And going for the title next year in that McLaren is Juan Pablo Montoya. The Colombian's already made a big impression.
He's a very personable chap. Obviously he has a reputation for a Latin side to him, but I'm sure in the cockpit he shows great discipline, and I think he'll bring a bit of colour to the team.
Well, I tell you what, a colour for the team for Juan Montoya and everyone in this pit lane. Fantastic scenes. They've only just gone out, all the cars, because it's a big gamble on which tyre to go out on. The two McLarens, Martin, have gone out on intermediate tyres. Are they going to start the race on those tyres?
We don't have to decide until the 5-minute board, and obviously weather like this we like to think of as an opportunity, but clearly it's a challenge. The drivers will have a look at the circuit. They won't talk on the radios, but they'll talk to their engineers when they get there. We'll be constantly monitoring the conditions, and 5 minutes before we have to choose the tyres. We'd dearly love to start on dry tyres, but at the moment I think the predictions are we'll be starting on intermediates. Of course, for us, perhaps we've got a bit more fuel than some on board. That's not what we'd want to hear, and if we can get away with dry tyres, we will do so. It's an opportunity to be heroes or to look extremely foolish, and that's what we're faced in the next 10 minutes, really.
Thanks very much, Martin.
Live to the grid to Martin Brundle. Martin, all sorts of questions for you to try and answer, pal.
Yeah, the show still very much goes on down here. They've just started playing there at the front, but the most interesting thing for me at this end of the grid so far is what is this safety car going to do? Will they possibly start this race under the safety car? I can't imagine they'll need to, and they certainly shouldn't, in my view. But that'll disappear 5 minutes before the start of the race if they're not going to use it for that effect. Now, I'm going to be about as welcome as a toothache on this grid today, because they've all come very, very late. They've been waiting to go as long as they could, as Ted pointed out earlier on, to try and find out just where the track is at. The sun is coming out. It's drying very quickly. The problem here is the Lesmos and a couple of the big braking areas are under the trees and will dry more slowly. So will they start the race on slicks? There's not a lot they can do in terms of the setup of the car. They can crank. Climatic conditions have been announced as changing. So as David Coulthard said in his email answer, they can change the brake ducts, they can change the radiator ducting. I don't think they will anyway, because it's going to be warmer later on, and they can change the angle of this front wing. Crucially, they can't change the rear wing, the flap of the rear wing. Let's go around there and have a look at that, and just so you can understand what we're talking about. It's really skinny in chord and very little angle of attack. They can change this if they want to early on in the race, but it wouldn't be worth stopping for that. So the drivers have just got to get out there and drive it. But which tyres are they going to be on? Let's see if we can find somebody who can give us a clue for that, because they're all rushing round. They've got 10 or 15 minutes less than they normally would have. Sam, can you just give us a quick, what are your drivers saying about the track?
It looks like it'll probably go dry pretty quickly, because it's quite wet for the first two corners, but the rest of the track from turn 3 through to the last corner is pretty almost inter, if not dry already. And with the sun coming up now, because the cloud's gone away, it's going to go dry very quickly.
So you think 100% of them are going to start on slick tyre, on the dry tyre, I should say?
I don't know. It's at the moment definitely turn 1 through to 2. That's still wet, so it's definitely inter through there. So it's going to be a tough call.
Are you satisfied with your wing level, or do you wish you'd got a little bit more on now?
No, wing level will be fine, because if it's dry after 3 or 4 laps, then it'll be full dry downforce anyway.
Okay, good luck. We'll get out of your way. Rubens Barrichello, I know, is off the grid. We got Michael. And did I hear Rubens is walking back? Right, let's go and Rubens, I don't think he is behind me. Here's Rubens Barrichello. What's he doing here? Rubens, that's not your Ferrari. Your Ferrari's over there.
I was checking if they
you think they might be pulling a bit of a stroke. How's the track looking? I know you're in a hurry, but thanks for talking to us.
The track is actually drying out quite quickly, but as you know, Lasmos is going to be quite wet still. So it's going to be a bit of a gamble. Hopefully when we come to our pit, it's going to be already dry.
Now, it's always a casino going into the first corner here in perfect conditions. Today it's going to be treacherous, yeah?
It's very difficult to know where to brake, so hopefully people at the back will understand a little bit of that. Otherwise, it's going to be a casino like always.
Yeah, okay, good luck. You've got a good shot. I mean, your intermediate should be awesome, yeah?
Yeah, it should be very good for the time being. So whenever you change a little bit to the dry, Michelin could have an advantage to start with, but hopefully we're going to be spot on whenever we change them.
All right, good luck today. Your rear gunner is Michael for a change, so let's see what we can do about keeping him there. Right, can you believe all these people on the grid? I thought it'd be really quiet today, but as soon as the rain stopped, all of the profilers and megastars and would-be heroes have come out to play. Let's see if we can find out anything here. If Alonso, the drivers, because right, let's have a word with Swervin Irvine over here. Irvine, we need some words, pearls of wisdom from you. What would you do today? Start on slicks or wets?
I haven't even looked, so don't ask me something like that. All I've been doing is, looking around, seeing that everyone's nice and happy.
Seeing that everyone's nice and happy. When did you ever care about that?
I do now.
Oh, is the softer side of you?
It's a new caring Eddie Irvine.
Okay, so Irvine loves the people, doesn't care about the tyres. It's going to be a very interesting race.
Indeed, it will be the new caring Eddie Irvine. Let's have a final thought from Tony Jardine.
Well, I mean, it's going to be very, very mixed, but I think the key thing there that Rubens was talking about was the Michelin Intermediate, which is feared by the Bridgestone runners, and that could be crucial in those early laps.
The track is drying quickly then. Those early corners, still very slippery indeed, are going to be absolutely crucial. Michael Schumacher with the Italian flag on his helmet as he tries to become the first driver to win this famous race 5 times. Ahead of him, Rubens Barra finish every race this year, going for a rare victory. Montoya absolutely loves Monza, scene of his first F1 triumph and the fastest lap in F1 history. Alonso's Renault that we're seeing will fly down that 200-mile-an-hour straight to the bottleneck first corner. The BAR's Sato and Button and Raikkonen's McLaren all very much in the mix. The sun is out. Ferrari are intent on a party in the Royal Park. We are access all areas for the Italian Grand Prix. It is the last European race of the season, round 15. 53 times round the quickest circuit on the calendar, Monza, always unpredictable and a notorious car breaker. That's the real danger today. Martin Brundle and James Allen await the pleasure of your company for the Italian Grand Prix. James.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim. You can see the heat haze, the sun glistening off the bonnet of the safety car, and I can tell you an hour ago it wasn't like that at all. There was rain falling down here from 7:30 this morning right up until about an hour before the start of this Grand Prix. But now it's more traditional Monza site that we have. Sunshine, that beautiful wide pit straight, reasonable sized crowd here, and a big question mark hanging over every driver in the field. Should I start on wet tyres this afternoon? There is rain, as you can see, down that main straight under the braking area for turn 1. They go from 220 miles an hour down to just 50 miles an hour in 3 seconds, over 4 Gs of deceleration. And if you've got slipperiness under the wheels, you can imagine what might happen. Should I go for the drive? Should I take a gamble in the first 3 or 4 laps of this race? Because undoubtedly it's not going to be long before a dry line emerges in that part of the circuit, and we already know that the second half of the lap is bone dry. The line is there. We've already seen tyre changes on the grid. Looking out of the window, I've seen both the BARs making changes. I've seen one of the Renaults and Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren as well. We don't know what's under the tyre blankets that they've put onto the cars, but either way, there might be 1 or 2 brave people out there just going for the dry tyres early on. Now, Ferrari don't really have that luxury. They're on the Bridgestone tyre here this afternoon, and their dry Bridgestone isn't quite so good. It's much more sensitive to a damp track than the Michelin. Remember Indianapolis last year? Michael Schumacher in real trouble against Kimi Raikkonen as the track dried out. Also Brazil last year. What a lottery that was in the wet, dry conditions. So, as I say, tremendously exciting afternoon in prospect. We've already had a momentous weekend. Rubens Barrichello setting the fastest ever pole position lap. There it is, 1 minute 20.089 for an average speed of 162 miles an hour around this circuit. Quite tremendous. He's been bridesmaid all year. Is this his opportunity to grab his first victory of the season? Alongside him, Juan Montoya splitting the 2 Ferraris. Michael Schumacher made a mistake yesterday in qualifying. Montoya took advantage, and he said last night after qualifying he was going to go on the attack here this afternoon, as he did 12 months ago against Michael Schumacher. Lots of question marks. But Martin, certainly Montoya, the furthest forward of the Michelin runners. Will he take a gamble this afternoon? Certainly, as I say before, on a drying track that you'd have to favour the Michelins early on, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, especially as he's got Alonso right behind him on the grid, the fast-starting Renault, who surely is going to spoil Michael Schumacher's fun down to the first corner 2 in acceleration. We don't know yet about braking because, as you pointed out, it's going to be slippery down there. If I was a team manager, I'd have at least one of my cars on slicks, on the dry tyre. They're grooved, of course, now, but we still refer to them as slicks effectively. But if I was a driver, and these are such difficult days as a driver, I'd love to be down there every day of my life, except days like this where I probably wouldn't change my microphone for a steering wheel, because it is, as we said earlier in the programme, it's 0 to 0 stuff. It's dangerous. If the car lets go with not enough grip, with the skinny wings, and you can just go off and have the biggest accident. Even in something like Curva Grande, James, where it's just a mild curve, the thing can get away from you and you can go straight off into the wall. Dry tyres on the Renault. Surely it's a dry tyre race, especially for the Michelin runners, because as you say, their tyres work better in the slightly changeable conditions, and I don't think they've got such a good intermediate wet. But if those drivers that put inters on, if those people that put inters on go and take 20 seconds out of you in the first few laps as you're tippy-toeing around, they've got a pit stop in their pocket anyway. That's the challenge they're all facing, and that is the pole sitter on the intermediate tyre, and Michael Schumacher behind him on slick tyres. So Ferrari have gone 1-1. We haven't seen the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher yet, but I'm led to believe he is on the dry tyre. So, and that's going to be a pattern, I think, quite a long way down the grid. But look, it effectively looks totally dry on the start line. The problem is, as I pointed out on the grid walk, around the back under the trees.
Well, we'll see it for ourselves in a moment as the parade lap gets off. There's Montoya. He's on the dry tyres. You can see those arrow-shaped grooves on Barrichello's tyres. He's going to have to make a pit stop fairly early on to change those, and that's a pit stop he's going to be giving away to Montoya, who will be licking his lips in anticipation. The question is, how will Schumacher's dry tyres handle these damp conditions? Are we looking down now towards turn 1? Just look at how the track surface changes. It's more slippery looking, more greasy looking, and when the cars were going around on the parade lap, there is definitely still moisture there.
Well, Rubin's probably got less to lose. We think he's lighter fueled than just about anybody on that grid. We'll find out later. But of course, he's then got a pit earlier. What surprised me, I've just heard that Jenson Button is on the intermediate tyre. The feeling in the paddock was that BAR had the best set-up car for these change of conditions. They seem to have given away some straight line speed in qualifying yesterday for more wing, and their car should be more sure-footed than just about anybody else on the grid. The other feeling is that Renault have got the skinniest amount of downforce, and they will be most challenged. So I'm surprised to hear that Jenson is on the wet tyre, but that doesn't look like it to me from that picture. So I think that piece of information coming up from the grid is not correct. Coulthard definitely is on the intermediate tyre there. The Toyota dry tyre for the Jag, dry for the Toyota, dry for the second Jag of Clean, and
dry for Fisichella, but intermediates on the Bridgestones on the Sauber there for his teammate Felipe Massa. So you see both the Bridgestone front-running teams have split their choices, with one driver on dries and one on intermediates. Very, very interesting situation, and of course a supreme test of the driver's skill, whatever tyres they're on, in the early stages of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, you've gone to the grid. I've been there many times. You've gone to the grid. The circuit looks 50-50. You've gone through all the paraphernalia you have to get through into the start procedure. You drive round on this lap, and it's what on earth happened? How? This is so completely different to what I saw just 18-20 minutes ago, and anybody out there on dry tyres is going to have a smile on his face.
Well, as Martin was saying, the feeling in the paddock that Rubens Barrichello carrying less fuel than his teammate Michael Schumacher and than the other cars around him. Indications possibly that it's perhaps only a couple of laps, so maybe Rubens has been a little bit compromised here. But we've seen in the past people going out on the wrong tyres. Remember Williams a few years ago at Monte Carlo, fairly wet track, went out with slicks and they were absolutely nowhere. Jacques Villeneuve, one of the drivers on that occasion, very easy to get it wrong. 53 laps then of this majestic circuit, 190 miles in total, and this slightly damp conditions pretty likely to mean it won't be the fastest race in history. We had last year the fastest Grand Prix in history, and with rule changes coming next year to slow the cars by as much as 5 or 6 seconds a lap, there was a feeling if it had stayed dry today, this would be a fastest ever Grand Prix that might stay a record for a long time, but perhaps these damp conditions might spoil that. Well, we'll keep an eye out anyway.
If I was Coulthard now, I'd go in the pits. Start on slicks on the dry. I keep calling them slicks, sorry. Start on the dry tyres from the pit lane, and I half expected Rubens to do the same thing. This is a dry tyre condition.
That's Nick Heidfeld. He had to qualify yesterday in the spare car, but he switched back to his original race car, which is why he's starting with the pits. And Coulthard has followed Martin Brundle's advice. Top of your screens, David Coulthard has dived into the pits to put on slick tyres and presumably change his refuelling as well. The rest of the field coming round to form up on the grid. Can't see anybody else having dived into the pits. Coulthard rolling the dice then. Starting 10th place originally, David Coulthard. There you can see the gap on the grid where he was.
Some problem, apparently there's some problem fueling the car there of David Coulthard. They're not allowed to fuel it until the race is started, of course.
Absolutely. Okay, the anticipation builds, the excitement builds. Turn up the volume sound and enjoy as we go. Racing! Brilliant start by Barrichello. Look at Alonso fighting with Montoya. Montoya's left, Alonso in the middle. Alonso cuts out Schumacher. He's well and truly past a very cautious, you'd have to say, Juan Pablo Montoya. Schumacher down to 4th. Everybody's being very cautious. Schumacher has gained a position there, undoubtedly, in the chicane. He'll have to give that back to Montoya or face a penalty. Meanwhile, Raikkonen is on the attack. Schumacher is being very, very careful, and he lets those two cars go through. So Montoya jumps up, Raikkonen jumps up as well. And who's the next person that's going to be attacking Michael Schumacher? It's going to be the two BARs of Sato and Button.
And this is where the Bridgestone struggle, even after a safety car, as we saw in Spa, as Button crosses and makes a place in the chicane. Schumacher spins. Michael Schumacher spins. There's a Williams visit in the background there as well. Carnage then at the second chicane. They were super, super cautious into the first one, and not quite enough of caution into the second chicane. Alonso leads the Grand Prix as Pizzonia recovers through the gravel trap.
Well, the computer's still showing Barrichello in the lead as the two BARs are side by side there going down towards Ascari. We're looking at Alonso there with Montoya behind him. Schumacher has definitely spun. Jenson Button is a man on the move. Look at him attacking teammate Takuma Sato. There is Rubens Barrichello taking advantage in the early stages of the slippery conditions on those intermediate tyres. He leads the Grand Prix at Monza. Alonso second, Montoya third, Raikkonen fourth, Sato fifth, Michael Schumacher shown a 6 on the computer, but he seemed to be lower down as Olivier Panis retiring from the Grand Prix. He's had a terrible weekend with gearbox and engine problems, but his race only lasts one lap, and there you can see the top 8, and what a tremendous start by Felipe Massa, 16th on the grid. He is now up into 6th place.
Well, Ruben, sorry I said Alonso was in the lead. Of course, Barrichello's way out front there, but by 7 whole seconds. Michael Schumacher back in 15th place. So Barrichello at the moment romping away. And how long will it take for those Michelins to get fully up to operating temperature? I think it'll be sort of lap 2 or 3 before they should start eating back in to Rubens Barrichello. But we've seen this many times before, James. The operating window of that Bridgestone Inter is very high. They can go a long way in dry conditions, as Button was having a go at Raikkonen.
Yeah, tremendous looking move from Jenson Button. We've cut away for no reason at all to look at the Ferrari garage. We want to see what Jenson Button's doing, because he's very, very racy in the early stage of this Grand Prix. He's got past him, and so is Felipe Massa. No, he hasn't. Raikkonen resists Massa, who's being tremendously aggressive in the early stages here. Fantastic performance by Massa from way, way back on the grid, but Jenson Button up now into 4th place ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Barrichello leads Alonso by 7 seconds. Montoya 3rd, Button 4th, Raikkonen 5th, Sato is 6th. Massa as well in the mix as well.
So Rubens has just got to hope he can keep these tyres intact to get himself into the first pit stop window. Where do you think that's going to be, James? Lap 9, 10, something like that? Or maybe as early as 8, and he can still keep on a 2-stop strategy without carrying too much weight at any point in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Martin. I think he's probably carrying 11 or 12 laps worth of fuel. He'd like to get a bit further into the Grand Prix, 8, 9 if he can, before making a stop. It's all about the gap he can make, as the Massa just trying a little bit too hard there into turn 1. We ride on board with the man who is down in 14th place, Michael Schumacher. He's looking at the back of Giancarlo Fisichella in the other Sauber. That shows you how much progress Massa's made. Here's the start again.
And then Michael Schumacher then super cautious. Look, he's now back into 4th place. Alonso on the attack. It's Barrichello with the best tyres at this stage. He's got the confidence to go in. Look, doing pedestrian speed. Schumacher jumps across the second chicane, gained a place, but gave it back to Montoya immediately. On board with the Renault then. And one day he's going to be popped up in the air, flying in the sky, because he's always pulling that stunt on the at the start of the Grand Prix because of the brilliant characteristics of that car away from the line. But works out yet again for Alonso. And this then is Schumacher spinning out, and I think others then in sympathy following suit. Michael Schumacher is down in 14th place as we speak.
Yes, and poor Olivier Panis was a victim of that. You could see he was one of the people that fell foul, as Button now has a look at Montoya. Martin Brundle mentioned how the BAR was set up in qualifying yesterday a little bit more towards the dry settings, and he's obviously making use of that, Jenson Button, attacking Juan Montoya. And right. Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso is getting the hammer down. 1:27.9 that last lap. It seems as though we're getting into the territory now where the dry tyres, he's now almost 2 seconds a lap faster than Rubens Barrichello, starting to haul him in. Barrichello's going to have to start thinking about changing tyres.
Yeah, it's the point we talked about. It was lap 3, and the dry tyres are up to temperature, and the driver is up to full confidence and knowledge level. And we should see very quickly hauling Barrichello in now, and the smile will be disappearing off Ruby's face as Montoya, on a very strange line, compromises himself, gets it out of shape, and Button takes him as if it's candy from a baby. And Montoya, I don't know why he was going so defensive into that corner. Button was nowhere near overtaking him.
No, he certainly wasn't going to try it, was he? He was quite a long way back. You can see it was still quite slippery all the way through that section. That's the section which will take the longest to dry out here this afternoon. Montoya lost momentum then through the Lesmo bends, and you can see that Raikkonen, who managed to keep his average speed up, is now right behind Montoya, who is building back up to speed. Teammates next year, of course, within McLaren, and has Raikkonen got the momentum to get past Montoya on the run down to Parabolica. Doesn't look like it.
Okay, Barrichello led by 6.6 seconds. So far on this current lap, he's 2.1 seconds slower. And over the line they go. It's nearly 4 seconds by the end of the lap. Alonso took 4 seconds out of him, and no wonder he'll be past him on this lap. And Barrichello then, it hasn't worked. He hasn't got in to a sensible pit stop winner. Don't think he's out of the equation altogether today, but that seriously made his afternoon difficult.
Going to cost him 26 seconds to come in the pits and get back out again. He will return probably somewhere around Gianmaria Bruni in 11th place. So both Ferraris will be out of the points in the early stages of the Grand Prix, and a lot of work to do from here for the team which clinched the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship recently, and for whom this weekend was supposed to be a celebration party. At the moment, the man in the pound seats is Alonso. Button looks also very aggressive, 5 seconds behind the Frenchman, behind the Spaniard, as he comes up now to grab the lead off Rubens Barrichello. We cut away to look at the battle between, here we go, Alonso then for the lead in the Renault. It's candy from a baby, straight through into Ascari. Rubens Barrichello has to give way, and he will have to come into the pits, because that is the lead well and truly gone.
Yeah, it's like trying to nail jelly to the wall when you're driving on tyres that have gone off. The rubber, the heat is generated by the rubber moving around. As soon as those tread blocks start moving, you're struggling. This is Coulthard fighting with Michael Schumacher for 13th place, and we cut away just at the juicy bit. So I'll keep an eye on that one. We don't know how that ended up. Alonso does now lead the Grand Prix.
Ted Kravitz has news for us.
Rubens Barrichello comes into the pits. Those intermediate tyres are so worn down. He puts on the dries. He's about 6 laps too soon for his first stop. There he goes. What's the time on that? 6.9. That's not a bad stop, but he is seriously compromised. David Coulthard, while you're down there, might well have a problem at his next stop with his fuel flap. He couldn't open it when he was refueling in the pits.
Okay, then now let's restock here, and Alonso was 5.5 ahead of Button. Massa pits with, he must have had the intermediates on. So Alonso, how is he doing? He's quicker than Button in the first sector anyway, so he's stretching that lead. Montoya up to 3rd, Raikkonen 4th. Sato will be up to 5th. Then Trulli, Clean, Webber. Fisichella will be 10th.
Lap 8 of the Italian Grand Prix. It's been all action at the start. Here's Gianmaria Bruni coming in for tyres. That's Giancarlo Fisichella. He is in 10th place with Rubens Barrichello in front of him, Michael Schumacher and Antonio Pizzonia behind him. Fernando Alonso leads the Grand Prix. Button is 2nd, Montoya 3rd, Raikkonen 4th, Sato 5th and Klein in 6th place. And Louise Goodman is with Olivier Panis, the only man to have retired from the Grand Prix so far.
Yeah, we saw a lot of drivers scrambling through those chicanes on the opening laps. Unfortunately, Olivier, you didn't make it out again.
No, well, on the second chicane, I'm quite disappointed for all the team, because we take a good choice to start on slick. But I'm very close to Pizzonia, and he turned like normal. It's very difficult on the wet. And I take some understeer and I hit him with the front nose and I broke it. And after that, I park on the gravel, but I don't have to going out.
Like you say, big disappointment. Thanks, Olivier.
And nose disappearing off the Sauber there, and Michael Schumacher then moves up past Fisichella into 10th place. Interestingly, Rubens Barrichello, despite the stop, despite the blistered intermediate tyres, now back out and in front of Michael Schumacher. So damage limitation was done there by the Ferrari team. Barrichello compromised but still in play.
Yeah, but of course he's taken fuel on, so he's going to go much deeper into the Grand Prix than Michael Schumacher, who has yet to come in and take on the first fuel load of the afternoon. So Barrichello, you'd have to say, looking very strong indeed. And you have to put, your heart goes out to Felipe Massa, who's done a stunning job in the early part of the Grand Prix. Got his nose knocked off. Here he is in the pits to change it. And all that good work undone. Massa pitting from 18th. And, well, he's got a lot of work to do. Meanwhile, that's a replay of his teammate Fisichella being overtaken for 10th place by Michael Schumacher.
Yes, just nicely out of the slipstream. But the faster car, probably better stability under braking. Fisichella not troubling the Ferrari there. Michael even able to pull back onto line. Massa losing his nose was about 100% his fault, I would say.
Well, it's interesting because Fernando Alonso leading this Grand Prix on lap 10 by 6.1 seconds from Jenson Button, who on that last lap was over a second faster than Alonso. Button driving very, very well in these early stages. He's just a second ahead of Juan Montoya on the racetrack. who's third. At the moment, Kimi Raikkonen is in fourth place. He's 1.8 seconds behind Montoya, and then a further 5 seconds back from them is Takuma Sato. Almost 10 seconds behind them, the Jaguar of Christian Klein, who's going absolutely brilliantly in sixth, having started 14th on the grid. The man who finished sixth at Spa 2 weeks ago, once again having another very strong run, ahead of teammate Mark Webber, who is in seventh. Trulli down into eighth place, but he's just set the fastest first sector of this lap of the Grand Prix so far, and Ted Kravitz has some news for us about Trulli.
And down at Renault, we think that's because Jarno is coming in this lap. He's been so much slower than Alonso, and we believe they are on similar fuel loads. His engineer, I've been into Renault, his engineer's been telling him to get on with it, but you know Jarno's head's down at the moment. I wonder, because he hasn't reported any problems. Oh, it's Alonso who comes into the pits. Alonso who comes in. I wonder if Trulli's head's just gone down completely and he's lost interest.
The race leader pits then on lap 11, Fernando Alonso. So Jenson Button leads the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in the BAR Honda, with Juan Montoya right behind him, who has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. He has closed to within half a second of Jenson Button. There he is. That's what half a second looks like at almost 200 miles an hour as Button comes down to the Variante Roger, the Roger chicane, the second chicane on this lap, and a real dogfight here in prospect between Jenson Button, Juan Montoya, and just behind them, Kimi Raikkonen.
Yes, I don't know if Coulthard's had a problem. He's back down to 14, but very tight at the front. Truly, all of a sudden, has found pace. He was the fastest man of anybody in the first sector last time around, so his performance very much up and down in this Grand Prix. Montoya is the man with the most confidence at this stage.
Just looking at a replay there into turn one of Montoya putting a lap on the Minardi. I tell you what's interesting, Martin. Michael Schumacher is now tucked right up behind Rubens Barrichello. The gap between them on the last timing point was 0.1 of a second, and Schumacher will be desperate to get past his teammate, who's carrying more fuel at this stage of the Grand Prix than Michael is. Schumacher will undoubtedly have a pit stop coming up in the next few laps as Jenson Button crosses the line once again in the lead here at Monza. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix to him, 1:23.0. And there you go, Michael Schumacher going for the lead in a lighter car, makes it stick.
Yep, that's to pass his teammate. That's for 9th place. So Michael Schumacher then up into P9. But as you pointed out, James, he has got a lot more, Barrichello that is, has got a lot more fuel. Button does a new fastest lap of the race and stretches his lead by half a second. It's 1.1 now. Raikkonen's 2.9 behind them. Then Sato quietly minding his own business in 4th place, going well. Webber is 5th. That's Klein, who pitted from 6th. Alonso rejoined. He now moves up to 6th. Barrichello then is down in 10th, but he's already made a pit stop. So we've had Klein, Alonso, Barrichello and Bruni are the only 4 drivers to make hot lap pit stops.
This is Pitsonia and Barrichello. I saw them very close together there. This is a replay of what happened. You can see Pitsonia making a bit of a Horlicks of the first chicane, and Barrichello, well, he was in front of him anyway at the start of the lap, so Barrichello in 10th place, Michael Schumacher up to 9th and going like a rocket. He just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We're now into the 1:22s with Michael Schumacher, a 22.7, and he's set the fastest first sector. He is absolutely flying here in 9th place, a few laps before his own first pit stop, and we're going to see a real Michael Schumacher fight back here this afternoon. Meanwhile, at the front, you can see the leaders. Jenson Button on lap 13. The margin as they cross the line, almost a second. Raikkonen just keeping a watching brief in 3rd place. Sato dropping back a little bit, 8.9 seconds now, as Button and Montoya go toe-to-toe at the front.
Let's watch the end of this. It's not going to be on screen. You're watching 1st and 2nd place. Raikkonen struggling to hang on to them by about half second a lap. Michael Schumacher does a 21.9. That's a 10th off the lap record in race conditions. That's how grippy and dry it is out there now, as Mark Webber pits from what was 5th place.
And that means that this is the perfect moment in this Grand Prix to be making a pit stop. The track has definitely come to fully now to the dry tyres. They're absolutely flying, and well, this is the moment to be doing it. So everybody that took the gamble on the dries at the start, that gamble has paid off handsomely for Button, for Montoya, for Raikkonen and Sato, and particularly for those Michelin runners.
Okay, that'll be Massa then passing somebody. That's Sato running extremely wide, didn't gain any time on that. but Baumgartner was penalised by 1 second in qualifying for using that easy apex in turn 2 there. A crank of wing change. We don't know if it's up or down on the Jaguar. Probably down, I would imagine, if to go back to drier conditions, and Ted is down there.
And McLaren with a serious problem for Kimi Raikkonen. Steve Hallam, his engineer, is looking very worried. Here he comes into the pits. They've cleared a space for him in the garage. Oh, what a shame. Kimi Raikkonen in to retire. A lot of smoke coming out of the back of that car. Oh, a lot of smoke coming out of there. I wonder if that's heat, but the mechanics ready with fire extinguishers for the back of that engine. But another disappointing after the joy of Belgium. A terrible weekend for Kimi Raikkonen.
The 8th retirement from 15 Grand Prix for Kimi Raikkonen. And, well, we know what that little momentary anger that Mark Arnold, his trainer, talked about in the build-up programme. He'll certainly be feeling that now as Pitsonia battles with Rubens Barrichello, takes the position. He's, of course, still yet to make a pit stop. The car very light. Rubens Barrichello full of fuel. Zonta into the pits there from 10th place in the Toyota.
So what's pivotal here, I think, Michael Schumacher's the fastest man on the track, but he's 27.4 seconds behind Jenson Button. Neither of them have stopped yet. Michael Schumacher had the spin, then he didn't have enough grip, although he's fastest man now. So Button and Montoya have a full pit stop in their pocket. So the Ferrari team have got a big job to do this afternoon if they're going to win this Grand Prix. Button pits from the lead at the end of lap 15.
Yep, Jenson Button comes into the pits. We're not seeing him. We're looking at the pit stop of Zolt Baumgartner. There is Jenson Button. And obviously that will drop him down. We'll be interested to see where he comes out. Be very close to this scrap here, I would fancy. Montoya takes the lead then on lap 15 from Sato. Raikkonen has retired from the Grand Prix. We're not watching Jenson Button stop, but we'll see him where he emerges. There he is, just in front of this ding-dong then, between Alonso and Michael Schumacher. That's Button, that's Michael Schumacher, takes the place from Fernando Alonso. Schumacher then up into 2nd place, because Montoya has been in the pits as well.
So pivotal there for Jenson Button. He managed, as we said, he got a pit stop in his pocket, he just got back out in front. So the big question now is how much further can Michael Schumacher go in this race? And it does rather tell a story of yesterday's qualifying, doesn't it? Michael Schumacher then has gone a long way into this race before needing fuel.
Certainly has. We speculated he might have been carrying fuel. We did see him make a mistake in the Parabolica, those of you watching with us, but fuel clearly part of the reason why Michael was slow. Button then has a heavy car, just had a pit stop, new tyres as well. Michael Schumacher in the sweet spot, the car is light, a stop is imminent, the tyres are well worn in. He's got to try and pass Jenson Button. He wants to attack and make as much space up as he can. Will he go for the lead, or is he going to make his pit stop? Is Ross Brawn going to bring him in, knowing that passing Button might be quite tricky in the current conditions? Button driving absolutely beautifully here this afternoon, and we've got lap traffic, both the Minardis there to get around.
And critically, Schumacher just makes it on the entry to Parabolica past the lap traffic. And will he pit this time? Will he peel off right? Yes, indeed he does. So steaming then into the pit lane.
And Louise is with Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, Kimi, a fiery end to the Grand Prix. Big disappointment for our featured team.
Yeah, we had some problem with the engine, so I needed to stop.
What were the conditions like out there beforehand? How quickly did it dry out?
We're still a little bit wet, but it was okay.
Thanks, Kimi.
Not looking forward to talking to Ron Dennis later on. He's with us on the pit wall through the Grand Prix. But Kimi giving the team quite a lashing in the press, or reported to be anyway, for lack of reliability. And he'll be leaving the track another unhappy man.
So Michael Schumacher comes out behind Mark Webber there, you can see in the Jaguar, and Webber was in 10th place, so that puts Schumacher back 10th in this Grand Prix, around about 26 seconds behind the race leader, Jenson Button, at this stage of the Grand Prix. So Button at the front, Alonso, Montoya, Michael Schumacher has been into the pits as well. Fast and furious stuff here at Monza. Lap 18 of the 53-lap Italian Grand Prix. We've got, 3 guys who could win this Grand Prix this afternoon. Jenson Button going like a train at the front. He is 3 seconds in front of Fernando Alonso. Juan Montoya is in 3rd place. He's 1.7 seconds behind. And Rubens Barrichello, he could still win this Grand Prix as well. And Ferrari, he is 4th, 3.4 seconds behind Juan Montoya. Then it's Giancarlo Fisichella in the Salvo, who's had a terrific start to the Grand Prix, but has yet to make his first pit stop. He's the only man yet to make a stop. And Takuma Sato is in 6th place in the BAR. David Coulthard 7th, Mark Webber 8th, ahead of Michael Schumacher, who's right up behind the Jaguar driver at the moment. But critically, Martin, Michael Schumacher 28.5 seconds behind race leader Jenson Button, and he's on an identical strategy, it seems.
Yes, you'd have to say it's a question of how far Michael can get up the pack today rather than can he win the race. I think there are 4 drivers in this actually. Button, Alonso, Montoya and Barrichello currently lapping around the same pace, 7.5 seconds adrift, the 4 of them. Fisichella's just behind in 5th but has yet to stop, so he's a little bit out of sequence. Sato's 6th, going quite well but needs to pick up his pace if he wants to join and make it 5 potential winners, but still only 10.9 seconds, and that is Michael Schumacher trying to get up the inside of Mark Webber into the first Lesmo. Webber having absolutely none of it, and Michael Schumacher then his relentless pursuit of the leading pack. Remember, he spun on the first lap, didn't have enough grip on the dry tyres on a damp track and really struggled, lost a lot of pace. Now he's coming back, but it's been held up behind Webber's Jaguar, and Webber just driving the wheels off that thing. Good stuff.
Certainly is. Certainly the first Lesmo, not a place you see many people trying to attempt an overtaking manoeuvre. A lot of people thinking, having won his 7th World Championship, Schumacher might not be taking too many risks this afternoon, but they don't know Michael Schumacher very well if they suggest that. There's Fisichella then, from 6th place in the Sauber, last of the contenders to make a pit stop. 8.4 for him, back out on track. This lap 20 out of the 53 laps here at Monza this afternoon, and really exciting start to the Grand Prix. We had rain this morning, a drying track, certainly damp in some places. This was one of the places, the first chicane, as Michael Schumacher now with acceleration of that Ferrari engine superior to the Jaguar. This is coming down to the area of the Curva Grande then and into the second chicane. Now
Webber's got to stay left. He's got to make Michael go the long way round, and then parks it right in the middle of the racetrack. Nice stuff, but jumps across the chicane. Michael will get a good run out of there, and surely he'll now take the place. Webber just too busy watching Schumacher and braked a touch too late. He had the corner covered, and he really did the job twice and then lost out. And of course, just behind him is Pitzonia. That's for position 2. So this is 8th, 9th and 10th. Coulthard is 7th. He pitted at the end of the warm-up lap. We don't know how much fuel he put on the car. And will he go for a long run this afternoon to get the McLaren well into the points? We'll see where Fisichella fed back into the system as well. And there we go then. That is Webber having covered the bases on the way in, slow on the way out of the second chicane. And Michael Schumacher actually puts his hand up and says, thanks. I don't think Mark Webber intended to let him through.
Well, Ron Dennis is joining us, the McLaren Meet the Team this weekend. Ron, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, a tricky decision at the start of the Grand Prix, which tyres to go with?
Yeah, we were a little bit overcautious, but I think we've switched our strategy. Well, we have switched our strategy to take advantage. You can see David's pace, and pretty clear that we only have to stop once, so it's not too bad shape.
What's your overview then, Ron, of the strategies of everybody? Clearly Button is on the same sort of strategy as Michael Schumacher, but the front runners, how many men can win this race in your view?
Well, it's still pretty open. I think Michael's got a hell of a lot of work to do and a lot of cars to pass, so be a pretty impressive drive, but we've seen some pretty impressive drives from him, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But I don't think the race has settled down enough yet to know exactly the outcome. But as you can see, the pace is all pretty consistent, and but the Ferrari's starting to pick up the pace, so they're going to be a threat, maybe even Barrichello.
Ron, can I just backtrack on something you said? I know the cars are whizzing past you now, but have you moved David Coulthard back to the old-style Monza strategy of long run and one stop? So if that's the case, he's doing low 123s at the moment. He's looking pretty handy, isn't he?
That's quite right.
Okay, so that's something to watch out for as the Grand Prix unfolds. What happened to Kimi Raikkonen's car?
We had an engine problem. We lost water pressure, so the outcome was inevitable. In these conditions, engine blowing up and a slippery circuit is not a good thing to give a driver, so we decided to retire the car.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ron. Hopefully we'll speak to you a little bit later on in the Grand Prix, see how David Coulthard is progressing. Ron Dennis there, the boss of the McLaren Mercedes team. As we said, we've been enjoying Meet the Team with them this weekend, seeing behind the scenes, getting to know them a little bit, a few of the faces, the backroom boys. It's been absolutely terrific. And Ron Dennis giving us the benefit of his insights there from the pit wall. David Coulthard then, We saw them earlier in the Grand Prix. Bring him in, start the race from the pit lane. That meant he was on the right tyres, the dry tyres for the start of the Grand Prix, and full of fuel as Pitsonia nicks that 8th place away from Mark Webber. And we will keep a very close eye on David Coulthard now. He's 17.5 seconds behind race leader Jenson Button, but they both have only one more stop to make in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, I hope they show a replay of that. I think Pitsonia just nailed him into the second Lesmo, which is unusual to have enough acceleration off the first Lesmo in a very short straight to get up the inside there. And Barrichello on the move as well now. Coulthard doing 23.1, that's very fast too. He's 17 seconds away from Button. Of course, this is how they used to. Johnny Herbert won the race. I think he was the first one. Benetton were the first to understand how to do that. So little tyre degradation here. The weight penalty's not so high. Just get out there and keep running as long and as far as you can. That changed when you had to run your race fuel for qualifying. So they went shorter and shorter. So, and Coulthard now fastest man of anybody so far in the Grand Prix in Sector 1. He's on a charge.
Certainly is. And as Ron Dennis was saying, critically, at this stage of the Grand Prix, the pace is very even. All of the front 7 cars are all lapping in the mid to low 1 minute 23s. There is nothing to choose between them, and the gap between Button leading and Coulthard in 6th place is 17 seconds, but from 1st to 5th is under 10 seconds. A lot of racing still to go here at Monza. Lap 26 of the Italian Grand Prix. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you, and we've got 4 seconds separating the top 4 cars. There they are: Button, Alonso, Montoya, Rubens, Barrichello. It's that close, and we're not even at the halfway stage yet in this Grand Prix. Jenson Button then leading by 1.4. Montoya is second behind him, Barrichello as well. They're all on the same sort of pace at the moment. But, well, you'd have to say that nothing much to choose between them. David Coulthard, a man well worth watching as well. He's on a completely different strategy from the rest of them. He's in 6th place at the moment, 14 seconds behind the race leader. And he's on a one-stop strategy here this afternoon, which could be very interesting. Michael Schumacher, 11 seconds behind Coulthard, making no real impression into him. That last lap, half a second, but generally speaking, it's been about 11 seconds for the last few laps. So really intriguing stuff here at Monza.
Yes, all the key runners have got to stop one more time. Coulthard, for his first time in race conditions, he stopped at the end of the warm-up lap, took a penalty really effectively off the line. And but we've got 4 different chassis and engine combinations in the top 4, 2 different tyre manufacturers, and then nip and tuck on lap times. They're weaving around a little bit. Sometimes it's Button, then it's Alonso that's fastest. 4 seconds between the pair of them, the 4 of them, sorry. Sato managing to keep himself in touch, and Coulthard's got the gap down to 14.9 seconds now, and lapping faster than just about all of them. So he has got a chance of coming up into sort of the podium zone. Be a struggle to win it though from where he's at, but going very quickly. Coulthard pits then for his first stop of the afternoon.
Yep, this is it then. David Coulthard comes in from 6th place. Where will this drop him back to? There's a battle going on between Fisichella and Webber. Will he be anywhere near them as he comes out? Don't forget, he's taking a lot of fuel on here to take him right to the finish of the race. A long stop, 12 seconds.
Yes, and now, of course, he's got a very heavy car. He'll be heavier at this point in the Grand Prix than any of the other runners on 2 stock. So that'll slow him down, and probably 2-3 seconds longer taking the fuel on board. He needs a good clear run out of the pits. Klein coming up behind him. Can Coulthard keep in front of him? Because that'll be crucial for him while his car's fat and while he gets back up to speed. He looks as if he did that. So Coulthard now got to drive for his life if he wants to score some solid points this afternoon.
Just to give you an idea, he's got fuel to get him to the end of the race, whereas these front runners here are 5 or maybe 6 laps away from their next pit stop. That's the huge difference in weight. Those cars running almost down to empty and fuel. Coulthard absolutely full of it. Ted, what can you tell us?
Down at BAR, James, and there's a bit of concern, I can tell you. Jenson Button is slow. It might be because he's getting some traffic. His last at 23.9. Sato's last at 23.0. He's going to have to pick up this pace if he's to win this one.
Yes, we know that BAR ran a little bit more wing in qualifying. It's probably hurting them now in full dry race conditions. But of course, as Ted pointed out, Sato is lapping faster than the leader. He's just 6.8 seconds behind Jenson Button now. So Sato's hauling himself up to make it 5 contenders for this Grand Prix this afternoon. We may just see him in the background. We did indeed. Sato coming into play.
Certainly is. 6.8 then behind the race leader. And this is really exciting stuff here at Monza. We've had a few good Grand Prix this year, haven't we? Often when there's a little bit of drizzle in the air, that kind of thing. But usually also these fast racetracks, they seem to breed good racing. We should go here to these sort of places more often. Look how close they are now. That's the top 3 in this Grand Prix as we approach the halfway stage. Top 4, top 5.
Yes, and of course it's when you've got less grip. So if they take 25-30% of the downforce away next year under the regulations, it can only help us with more interesting racing. Or you've got to have random sprinkling on the corners. They'll have to choose one of those two.
That's a very good point. In fact, talking to Pat Simmons earlier on from the Renault team, he said, listen, just to give you some sort of idea, the downforce level we're running here, which is the lowest level of the year, these very flat wings, that's what we're going to have, roughly speaking, next year with the new rule changes. It'll be more or less this level of downforce at places like Monaco, at Silverstone, at Barcelona. They certainly will be sliding around a lot more next year.
Yeah, that's until they spend 20 million in the wind tunnel over the next 2 years and haul it all back again somehow. But that's the job of keeping, the difficult job of trying to slow these cars down. Jenson Button would like to speed his up at the moment. Barrichello was very fast on a 22.5. Michael Schumacher has done a 121.8. And to put that in perspective, Button did a 123.2. So he's leading the race. He's 1.3 seconds slower than 6th place Michael Schumacher. So, as Ted pointed out, Button struggling for raw pace at this stage of the Grand Prix on lap 29.
Yeah, meanwhile, Michael Schumacher sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, 121.899, pushing very hard. He's in clear air, 15 seconds worth of it between himself and Takuma Sato. Does he have enough to close the gap? But it's so close at the front here, with just a second between Button and Alonso, 1.5 between Button and Montoya, and just between Button and Barrichello in 4th place. It is definitely going to come down to who can go the furthest on the fuel, and you'd have to say Jenson Button, his first stop was on lap 14. That was a lap after Montoya's and 4 laps after Fernando Alonso. So we're not sure exactly how much fuel they all took on board. That's going to be absolutely crucial as to who comes in first and therefore who gets track position through the pit stops. Barrichello in.
He did, and Button in the 1:22s and faster than Alonso on that lap. But we're watching Barrichello in the pits for his second scheduled stop. And that's quite early, really, isn't it? I thought it would be nearer sort of 32, 34 before we'd see Barrichello. Of course, remembering, correcting myself, really, because he had to pit very early last time round because of he had the wrong tyres on for the track conditions.
Yep, came in on lap 5. Rubens Barrichello, he had the wet tyres on. We had a damp start to this Grand Prix. And he was really the only one of the front runners that opted to go with wet tyres at the start. All of these guys went with the dry tyres. So too did Michael Schumacher. But his Bridgestones didn't like the damp conditions down at the first and second chicanes as much as the Michelins. And he had a spin in the second chicane, which dropped him all the way down to 15th place, Michael Schumacher. But since then, he's been like a raging bull. And he's got himself back up into 6th place, but somehow you just can't, even he can't close up a gap as big as that. He's got it down to 21 seconds, though, the gap between himself and Jenson Button, but he's on the same strategy as all of the front runners. There isn't anything that Ross Brawn can do strategy-wise for him. It's all got to come from Michael Schumacher's right foot.
It's good news to see Coulthard straight into the 123s despite the heavy fuel load, so expect him to be cruising in to strong points later on in the Grand Prix, given reliability. Button leads by 1.5 seconds from Alonso. Montoya just half a second drift in 3rd place. Sato pretty stationary at 6.8 seconds behind Button in 4th place.
Lap 33 of the Italian Grand Prix. Jenson Button leading by 1.7 seconds from Fernando Alonso. Montoya is 3rd, Sato 4th. Michael Schumacher is ahead of teammate Rubens Barrichello in 5th place. Barrichello 6th, Pitsonia 7th, Fisichella 8th. There's Mark Webber pitting from 9th place, but we've just had a fire in the pits. The Jaguar boys a little bit circumspect putting the fuel in, not surprisingly, because this is what happened a moment ago.
Yes, that's next door to them in the Minardi team. A lot of fuel spilled, the mechanics laying it. Bruni inside the car, taking quite a lot of heat there, and they knew straight away there was fuel. They did actually carry on and refuel it and get ready to fire him up, but the driver said, I've had enough. Louise is down there as we see Alonso and Montoya pit from 2nd and 3rd place. Let's just hang on to this, because this is a and Sato too out of 4th. So it's a mechanics race then. There's Sato taking to his garage. He's further down the pit lane. Who's going to get away further? They should all need the same amount of fuel to get to the end of the race. Alonso out first, then Montoya and Sato yet to leave the garage. He does so now.
Well, that's very interesting. They go out then in the order in which they came in. There goes Pitsonia. He was in 7th place before the pit stop, so that's where they're filtering back in. Meanwhile, fastest man on the racetrack, aware that the racers are having this. There's Pitsonia. Alonso trying to get past him. Schumacher's aware of what's going on in front of him. He's just set a lap of 1:21.535. He's got down now to within 17 seconds of Jenson Button, and he knows he can try and capitalise now as these guys, Montoya, Alonso and Sato, have made their stops.
Now, importantly there, Alonso has cleared and then got it all wrong. He's got to stay in front of Pitsonia, and he knows it, because Pitsonia can interrupt his race. Button will be delighted to see that, because Alonso then, he made it past Pitsonia, but then Pitsonia came back at him, and that will compromise his pace. An important part of the Grand Prix, with Montoya just behind him, Zonta pits in the Toyota, and Louise is still waiting to talk to us.
Yeah, poor Gianmarco Bruni, very nasty incident. He's lying down on the floor in the Minardi garage, obviously in some discomfort, coughing a lot. He's obviously ingested either some fuel or some fumes from the fuel or the fire extinguisher, but he's got doctors with him, he's got physios with him, so I'll give you an update on his progress as soon as I can.
There we go, Jenson Button has a pit stop. That's the crucial one. It all went so well for BAR. Where does he come out?
Well, he's cruising down the pit lane at the moment. You can see there's the other front runners, and that moment when Pitsonia got out in front of Alonso. There he is. There is Alonso. There is Montoya. Button is back safely in front of the pair of them. Michael Schumacher is also in front of them. He is 11 seconds behind. He was 11 seconds behind Jenson Button before those stops. So there is Michael Schumacher now, showing as being in the lead. He has still to make his second stop of the afternoon. He was 11 seconds behind Button beforehand. He's not going to be able to make that up in a pit stop. However many laps of fuel he's got in the car now, it's going to certainly be interesting these next few laps for him. He's going to be absolutely flying to try and close that margin down, get himself as far up the race as he possibly can. But with an 11-second margin that Button had over him before his second stop, you'd have to say that Button looks safe at the moment from the onslaught of Michael Schumacher.
Well, as Ron Dennis said, Michael Schumacher needs a great race, and we've seen a lot of those. He is flying. I think he's about to set a new lap record if he doesn't pit at the end of this lap. Schumacher absolutely on it. There's his teammate Barrichello, and that tells you Michael's ahead of him on the track, but with another stop to do, as we see Button then passing traffic, and Pitsonia is in between, and Pitsonia's got to stop, as does Michael Schumacher again this afternoon. Schumacher does a 1:21.3. It is a new lap record by half a second as Pitsonia makes his second stop. The red flashing light in the distance is somebody who's forgotten to switch off their rain light, and Schumacher through Curva Grande then, he's leading the race by let's see, 15 seconds over Barrichello and Button, and of course that what do we think he needs? 25 seconds for a stop. We got a Jordan in the gravel trap.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, as I said, it was 11 seconds Button had on Michael Schumacher before Button's stop. There you can see Giorgio Pantano retiring that Jordan from 16th place. It's hard to see, unless Michael Schumacher's got several laps of fuel in this car, how he can possibly take the time out of Jenson Button. But Rubens Barrichello, well, he pitted on lap 5 for just over 6 seconds as we look at some wing being put into that car of Antonio Pitsonia. And Barrichello pitted again on lap 29, again for 6 seconds. So I think Barrichello's going to have to stop again, isn't he? Ferrari are ready in the pit lane for one of their two drivers. Michael Schumacher absolutely scorching around this racetrack at the moment. Which one of the two drivers is going to come in? Jenson Button is in third place. He'll grab second then, as Michael Schumacher comes into the pits.
Ringing it out down to the speed limit line. If he goes over that too fast, car number 15 already has a penalty. That's clean in the Jaguar for speeding in the pit lane, almost certainly, because you can't get it. You're coming off this track straight into the pit lane. You're doing best part of 200 miles an hour in this supreme machine. You have to get it down to just 100 kilometers per hour, and it just feels like you're dragging an old ferry boat home then when it's on its rev limiter, its pit lane limiter. Michael feeds out back then into the BARs.
Yeah, it's Sato. He's behind Sato, crucially, because Jenson Button, who's Michael Schumacher, they are side by side with Takuma Sato, and Sato has to give up the place. He had a bad drive out of the first chicane. Jenson Button's gone through already, so has Fernando Alonso, but Takuma Sato couldn't quite make it, and Michael Schumacher critically has got out in front of Button's teammate.
And that is crucial too, because remember, Sato was hauling himself up into the equation, so surely Michael Schumacher's done the same. Supreme laps, very, very fast, good pit stop. Michael with a fast car underneath him. Well, we better add his name to the list of potential winners now, James.
Yeah, it's growing all the time. 17 laps to go here. We've got lap traffic, we've got overtaking at the front and at the back. It's all going up at Monza, and Ted's got news for us.
Down at BAR, they're absolutely gutted about that because they needed Takuma Sato to help Jenson Button win this race. They were going to try and do that at USA this year. It's perfectly legal, but it hasn't happened. Bad luck, Taku.
And let's take a look at Michael Schumacher's laps then as he gets back up to speed after the stop. Tremendous confidence and grip he's got, hasn't he? Out of the pit lane, look at the advantage he's got over Sato already. Michael Schumacher absolutely flying. He did a 1:45 including his pit stop. That's 2 to 3 seconds faster than the bulk of them have been doing. So Schumacher just eating into their advantage.
Well, I don't know if he's going to win this race, but it's certainly one of his best drives. Michael Schumacher, having spun it in the early stages, is really putting on a fight back here at Monza. Fisichella pits then from 7th place. As we take our breath, at the moment, Rubens Barrichello is leading on lap 38 by 12 seconds from Jenson Button in the BAR. But we believe Barrichello, well, we're sure Barrichello has to stop again. Jenson Button then is in 2nd place. Alonso is 3rd, 1.5 seconds behind Jenson Button, with Michael Schumacher just 6 seconds behind Fernando Alonso. So in other words, well, the gap was 11 seconds between Button and Schumacher before that second round of pit stops. It's now down to 7 seconds. 3 of them came from a faster out lap. Obviously, some of it came from an in lap, but a lot of it came from those laps up to Schumacher's stop. Absolutely stunning driving here by Michael Schumacher. And, well, it's certainly put him into the equation. Sato is down to 5th. Montoya, who was in the top 3 for most of the first half of this Grand Prix, now drops into 6th place. Fisichella we've seen just making a pit stop. And what about David Coulthard here, you say? He's on a one-stopper. How's he playing out? Well, he's 36 seconds behind the race leader, just 22 behind Jenson Button, and lapping, well, his pace dropping off a little bit in comparison with the front runners at the moment, but still he's in the hunt for some good points here this afternoon.
Barrichello then, I'm not quite as sure as you he's got to stop again, but it seems virtually certain, doesn't it, that Barrichello, we think he took 6.3 seconds of fuel on board on lap 29. If that time is correct, then he has got to come in again. But his lead was 14.5 seconds. He was 2.5 seconds faster than Jenson Button, who once again struggling at this stage of the race for raw pace. Alonso close up behind. Barrichello first then, Button 2nd, Alonso 3rd, Michael Schumacher 4th. Just 5 seconds adrift, 5.9 seconds adrift of Button.
It's really a huge, huge test here for Jenson Button. He's got a car which we can see simply isn't fast enough really to win the race here this afternoon. No discredit to BAR, they've done a sensational job this year to move themselves forward up the grid. He challenged Michael Schumacher at Imola. He's had strong points finishes everywhere this season, 3rd in the World Championship. But you can see the car just not able to just do the lap time that Jenson Button wants from it. Meanwhile, Alonso in the Renault, we've seen real pace from them sometimes this year. He's currently lapping about 6 or 7 tenths a lap faster than Jenson Button. And Michael Schumacher, well, he's in a different planet. His last lap a 1:21.9 compared to Jenson's 1:23.9. 2 seconds a lap faster than Jenson at this stage of the Grand Prix. And if he can keep that going, then Schumacher will be right there very, very soon.
Well, we're heading for a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment because Button and Alonso are toast with Michael Schumacher's pace and their relative lack of pace at this stage now. And we're on lap 40. And Michael Schumacher then comfortably ahead of Sato and just creaming into Button and Alonso. It's just a question of how quickly Barrichello can get down the road and take a splash and dash towards the end of the race if he needs to.
Well, Ross Brawn's a million times cleverer than I am, and I'm sure he's got this one worked out. Exactly what he's going to do with Rubens Barrichello, where he's going to filter back in again. It's certainly going to be very tight. Barrichello really putting the hammer down now. 1:21.6 on that last lap before his final stop of the afternoon. His 3rd and final stop of the afternoon. Made a very, very early first stop because he was on the wet tyres on a drying track. The only one of the front runners to do so. That was really the story of this Grand Prix at the start. He went for the wet tyres. Teammate Michael Schumacher in third place went for the dry tyres. Had a spin at the second chicane, lost a lot of time. Meanwhile, Button, Alonso, Montoya, Sato all took advantage of Ferrari's problems at the start to grab the control of this race. But as the race has gone on, the pace of the Ferrari has really started to tell more and more. Michael Schumacher has driven absolutely out of his skin here this afternoon, as hard as he's ever driven before to put himself back into contention. And, well, you'd have to say that Button and Alonso are looking like they need to find a lot more speed if they want to stay in contention. Look, there is Schumacher now, the Red Baron, bearing down on the two young guns in front of him. Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm actually
Louise. Alonso spun out of second place, stuck in the gravel. We'll come back to you, Louise, but crucial point here in the race. Alonso, and if he gets assistance, he will be penalised. They will not, well, no, he'll be judged as being in a dangerous place there, I think. And they're saying switch it off, and he's saying, no, you push me. He's going to keep, that's it. Engine is off then. I think he would have got away with that, as I say, in a dangerous position. And he's lost it on the way into the second chicane. Highly unusual there for Alonso. And out, I believe, just as we cut away, yes, he switched off the engine, got out of the car.
He's not happy. He wanted a push. He's in a dangerous place, undoubtedly, like Michael Schumacher at the Nürburgring last year. Whoa! A Spanish kick of the right boot, a Real Madrid-style hoof, and he is very, very angry that the marshals wouldn't push him back into the race, because he would have been allowed to get away with it if they had. He obviously didn't fancy it, and I wonder why. We're in Italy. The Ferraris were bearing down on him. I wonder if that's got any bearing on it. Certainly, he's very cross indeed. Now, Louise, unfortunately, we cut across. What have you got to tell us?
Well, I'm stood here with Riccardo Ceccarelli, who's actually the Toyota team doctor, but a very close friend of Jean-Marie. So he's come down to check him over. How is he?
Now he's much better. Only a little bit of a cough, of lung irritation, but much better. When they tried to stop the fire, he was breathing the dust and the gas coming from the fire extinguisher, and that's caused an irritation, and he couldn't breathe at all for 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute, so it was a panic situation. He was trying to jump out just to breathe properly, but after 1 minute was recovering, and now he feels okay.
Thanks, Riccardo.
You're welcome.
A pit fire then for Bruni, and that was what he was suffering inside the car. Now this is a question of which Ferrari is going to win this afternoon now. Can Barrichello get out as a very short stop in front of Michael Schumacher to win this Grand Prix? Or will Schumacher beat him down? He's got to sit on the limiter. Where's Schumacher? He'll be coming around in the background, surely. He's tucked up behind traffic. That's good news for Barrichello.
He's tucked up behind Jenson Button, and he comes side by side down the main straight with Jenson Button. Michael Schumacher takes what would have been the lead, but it was not, because Rubens Barrichello managed to get out in front of the pair of them. Christian Klein sees trouble coming up behind him in the mirrors and gets well and truly out of it into the first chicane. Pretty smart move by Klein, because Button and Schumacher were side by side down the straight, and Rubens Barrichello has done enough in this race to stay in front of Michael Schumacher, no matter how hard Schumacher had tried. He knew that Barrichello was in the pits. As he went for Button down the main straight, he thought it might have been for the lead. Schumacher absolutely on the ragged edge here. He's after his teammate Barrichello. There are no team orders in Formula One, and although he's had tremendous support from Barrichello, it's hard to imagine after a drive like today. You look again at Schumacher going down the inside of Button. It's hard to imagine Schumacher not wanting to win here at Monza, just handing the victory to Barrichello.
Interesting tactics from Klein. He just got out of the way and went down the escape road. Clean pass for Michael Schumacher. Now the track is coming back. It's not as green as it was after the overnight rain. The Ferraris are just so much faster than anybody else. They've just got this relentless pace that Button and Alonso, before he spun off, did not have an answer to. That's why it's a Ferrari 1-2, plus an astounding drive from Michael Schumacher. But Barrichello then, surely they will not let Michael Schumacher cruise up and attack him at this stage of the Grand Prix.
Well, we've seen them in the past say that you can race each other up to the second round of pit stops, and from then on you hold position. That was certainly the rule last year, the year 2002. We had a little bit of controversy at Austria, remember, when Barrichello pulled over to let Michael Schumacher through. There's no way on God's green earth that's going to happen here this afternoon. But will they hold positions? Will Michael Schumacher be able to attack Rubens Barrichello? Jenson Button's not far behind, is he? The Michelin Mirage of Monza lasted 41 laps here, and that's as long as the guys like Button and Montoya were able to go into this race, leading it, as meanwhile Coulthard with Pitsonia. That's a battle for 6th place. Pitsonia trying to take that 6th place away from David Coulthard. These two also on the Michelin tyre.
Yes, Coulthard now coming under pressure. He's the meat in a Williams sandwich for 5, 6 and 7, and really pushing it as hard as he can. At least his tyre shouldn't be going off, although he's on the really the only main player on a one-stopper after that, going in at the end of the warm-up lap. So that's the best scrap out on the racetrack at the moment. Button just a second and a half behind Michael Schumacher, but surely no answer for Schumacher's pace.
Well, it was good while it lasted. Jenson Button leading the majority of this Grand Prix, now down into 3rd place. The car simply not fast enough. It was asked some very rigorous questions here this afternoon and came up wanting. Jarno Trulli completely missing the apex of the corner, having a terrible afternoon in the Renault, down in 10th place. And interestingly, Martin, some very harsh words from Jarno Trulli yesterday after qualifying, saying, ever since I was going out of this team, my car simply doesn't work anymore. Anywhere I go, he's not had a decent points finish for 4 races. And Flavio Briatore, the team boss, says as if we would slow down one of our cars. But certainly Trulli very suspicious about what's going on at Renault. Hard to see how they would possibly want to slow down one of their cars when they're battling with BAR for 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship, and only 8 points between them. But nevertheless, Trulli very unhappy. Barrichello then leading Michael Schumacher at Monza with just 9 laps to go. The closing stages of the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. It's been an absolutely tremendous afternoon's entertainment. You're looking at the battle there between 6th place David Coulthard and 7th place Antonio Pitsonia. That's the best scrap in the field at the moment. At the front, Rubens Barrichello is leading Michael Schumacher. There you can see a super slow-mo of Rubens with his team leader, 7 times world champion, right behind him. And Rubens Barrichello yet to win a Grand Prix in 2004. He's played shotgun all season. He's been the bridesmaid. Is today his day to step up and grab the glory and the limelight on Ferrari's home turf, just as he did in that super dominant season of 2002. He won here with Michael Schumacher in 2nd place, with both titles already clinched. It was Rubens' turn to shine. And I think, Martin, you have to ask the question, as the Brazilian flags start to come out, would he have been able to do this kind of thing earlier in the season if he'd been allowed to, or did Schumacher simply destroy him in the early part of the season, and now with the championships all decided, Rubens is somehow finding an extra gear?
I think it's not been Rubens' best season. I think he expected to beat Michael this year. Michael came out, as we've seen, stronger than ever before, and when Rubens did have the chance to win the races, it didn't happen for him. And he could have won in Indianapolis, and a bit of a stuttery exit from the pit stop, and 1 or 2 things just didn't play into his hands. But today, this weekend, he's always looked like he's a contender for the victory. He's had the message he wants to hear. Michael will not bother you. And that must be the case, otherwise he'd be down in the low 1:21s driving for his life at the moment. The pair of them are cruising around just a tiny bit faster than Button in 3rd place, protecting the car. This is the scrap of the race now. Coulthard and Pitsonia going for it, hammer and tongs, both of them looking for strong drives in 2005. Both of them driven very well today. Different strategies, different problems that have faced them. They're just 10 seconds adrift of Montoya in 5th place. So it's a Ferrari 1-2, a BAR Honda 3-4, Montoya 5th. And, well, will it be a 5-6 for Williams if Pitsonia can get past Coulthard? Coulthard doesn't look like he's going to give that away any time soon.
Both drivers looking for a seat in 2005, both contenders for all the available seats at the moment going into next year. So all of this is a shop window for the pair of them. Jock Baumgartner, he has been lapped twice and he is down in 15th place. We've had quite a few retirements. Alonso, Pantano, Bruni. We had a huge pit fire with Gianmaria Bruni earlier on. Kimi Raikkonen engine failure. Olivier Panis also stopped early on in the Grand Prix. The early stages, well, we've had rain all morning here at Monza. We had a damp track, but only in certain parts. The first part of the lap was damp, the rest of it was dry. Most of the front runners opted to go on the dry tyres from the grid, except Rubens Barrichello. It was the wrong choice for Barrichello. He made an early getaway, but then soon was swallowed up. Had to make an early pit stop on lap 5. That cost him. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher, who'd started on slick tyres, spun at the second chicane and dropped down into 15th place on the first lap. The story of the Grand Prix for him has been about a fight back, an amazing fight back from 15th place to second, and he was within a couple of seconds of nicking the win here. But after his second pit stop, Rubens Barrichello the third pit stop, Rubens Barrichello able to rejoin the Grand Prix just in front of Michael Schumacher and earned the right to win the Italian Grand Prix from Ferrari. He's only 4 laps away from doing that. While Ferrari were having their problems in the early stages, Jenson Button, Juan Montoya and Fernando Alonso grasped the nettle, and they led this race for much of the going. Also Takuma Sato just behind them as well. For a while it looked like they were in the pound seats, but then the pace of these two Ferraris really started to show through the middle part and the latter part of this Grand Prix, and they've got it bought and paid for now. They're heading for their 8th 1-2 finish of their season, and the 4th time in their career together that Rubens Barrichello has headed home Michael Schumacher in a Ferrari 1-2.
At the retirements, and Alonso spinning out at the second chicane. Pantano binned the Jordan at the Parabolica. Bruni with the pit fire. Raikkonen with an engine overheating. Panis spinning also at the second chicane. And Ted has some news for us.
Down at Ferrari, Martin, Barrichello's manager is pacing nervously around the back of the garage. He can't bear to watch these pictures. Barrichello, of course, there was some doubt whether he had to stop again. He does not. They did manage to get just enough fuel in that. I think they're so happy, these mechanics, just by the look of them, that Rubens is finally going to win a race this season.
Yeah, and Rock, is it on the racing line? Looks like it probably is on the exit of the first chicane there. I think the only thing that would stop Barrichello winning this race would be an error, but he's not under pressure, so that would be unlikely, or mechanical problems, because Schumacher's just pacing himself nicely within a second of the lead Ferrari. So it'll be a well-deserved victory. I mean, it was Michael who made the mistake, wasn't it? Michael who spun off. Rubens, I thought, was overcautious on the intermediates, but it's played into his hands pretty nicely. It's worked out well for him, because the track came to the Ferraris and their Bridgestones. The overnight rain, there'd been a Porsche race, a Formula 3000 race. The track would have been pretty slippery and green, and they seemed relatively nowhere, didn't they? But as the track has gripped up, rubbered in, the Michelin runners, such as Button there, have tended to fall away. Alonso fell off, and there's Sato then in 4th place at the moment. Still the Jaguar then of Klein. Where's Klein at the moment? Down in 13th. He had a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So the point scorers at the moment: Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, Button 3rd, Sato 4th, Montoya 5th. Coulthard just 7 seconds behind Montoya now in 6th, with Pizzonia 0.6 behind Coulthard 7th, and Fisichella another solid drive in 8th, scoring the final point at the moment.
And crucially, Jenson Button, a very strong performance for him this afternoon. He's just 9 seconds behind race leader Rubens Barrichello, heading for his personal 8th podium of the season. But crucially, with teammate Takuma Sato tucked up right behind him, likely to score 5 points this afternoon, and neither of the Renaults are in the points here this afternoon. This is going to move the BAR Honda team up into 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship. What an extraordinary achievement for them, as we look at, a big tangle there between Pizzonia and David Coulthard.
Right, so broken bodywork there on Coulthard's car. Be amazing if he hasn't got broken suspension too. That looked, we only saw the end of it, but it looked rather adventurous, didn't it? Pizzonia coming in quite late there. Hopefully we'll see a replay. Is Coulthard still going? He's still recording sector times out there, so it looks like the answer is yes. There's a squabble to watch as the Ferrari team move then up onto the pit wall. Coulthard's gone through the 2nd sector ahead of Pizzonia, so he did manage to stay on track. Good solid suspension there on the back of Coulthard's car.
Certainly was. 2nd race in succession that Coulthard has had an incident-filled closing stages. Remember, Spa hit Klein, had a puncture. Everything that could happen to David Coulthard in the closing stages there. Here again, he's been rammed from the back by Antonio Pizzonia. They're 6th and 7th, and they've got just one more lap to go. The Ferraris at the front. This was meant to be a celebration party for that historic 14th Constructors' title, and the 7th Drivers' Championship for Michael Schumacher, and it's been just that. After they kept their public and their fans on the edge of their seats in the early stages of the Grand Prix, but then the pace of the Ferraris this season simply too much through the Grand Prix, and they managed to grab 1 and 2.
What a cracking race. Monza's not always the most exciting, isn't it? Unless you do get a bit of inclement weather. but this one has just been full on. We had 4 cars look like they could win it, then it turned into 5, and we weren't including Michael Schumacher at that point, but Barrichello.
Who crosses the line to win his first Grand Prix of the season. Michael Schumacher goes across to salute the Ferrari mechanics. That is the first win since Suzuka last year for Rubens Barrichello, and it tastes so sweet. Jenson Button is absolutely delighted from the looks of things. Either that or he's out of fuel. No, he's delighted. In 3rd place, his 8th podium finish of the season, and most importantly, as I was just saying, BAR Honda move ahead of Renault in the Constructors' Championship with just China, Japan and Brazil still to go. All races where BAR Honda fancy their chances, so they're on target despite the bittersweet taste of Button wanting to leave the team at the end of the season for a historic achievement for them, 2nd place. But what about this man, Rubens Barrichello, 32 years of age. It's his 8th career victory. It seems he's been around for such a long time, always the bridesmaid and so rarely the bride, but today he come up smelling of roses.
Yes, the one Ferrari driver that will talk to F1 ITV. We're always struggling to get Michael to speak to the British fans. Rubens always the most helpful, you'd have to say, of any of the drivers, and it's a lot of pleasure to see him taking a well-deserved victory. Got the job done. Jarno Trulli down in 10th place, just the fastest first sector of anybody in the entire Grand Prix. Who did he come as? What on earth is he doing?
Well, as I was saying before, he's unhappy with what's going on at Renault. Says his car just feels strange. Some people are saying that, well, maybe it's just inside his head that's gone a bit mushy since it's been announced that he's leaving the team at the end of the season. I couldn't possibly comment on that, but certainly some very bad feelings. And it's led, as you can see, with Alonso, his car being hoisted away, and Trulli finishing out of the points. It's led to Renault giving up that 2nd place in the Constructors. So that's one of the big stories coming out of this weekend, alongside the Ferrari 1-2 formation finish and the tears. The 2nd time he's won the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, and this one will taste very sweet because he really won this purely on merit.
So Ferrari 1-2 then, as you've seen, Button for his 8th podium of the season and of his career, of course. 3rd, Sato solid 4th. So 2 Ferraris, 2 BRs, Montoya 5th, and Coulthard hanging on to spoil the Williams 5 and 6. Coulthard then with a very solid drive. He'll be pleased with that one, I think. Pizzonia, though, kept him honest right to the line. Just 0.3 of a second behind him for 7th, and Fisichella did pull 8th place out of the bag and 1 World Championship point.
Who knows, if it had been dry, it might have been the fastest Grand Prix ever as well. But either way, it's given us tremendous entertainment here this afternoon at Monza. The Ferrari flags fly. Not an enormous crowd here this afternoon. Ticket prices very high here at Monza. Over £250 for a grandstand seat on the main straight. But those who did come have seen a tremendous spectacle. And Martin, always a challenge to ask you after an exciting race like that who your driver of the day is. So many contenders. Michael Schumacher's fight back, Barrichello's steadiness and consistency, Jenson Button really trying hard with the cutlass between his teeth to take this one. Who's your driver of the day?
Well, as you say, so many contenders. I think Coulthard definitely a contender there, and Montoya quite quiet actually, didn't he? Sato didn't quite have the raw pace. You say Button went well. Michael Schumacher, the fastest man on the racetrack by and large through the Grand Prix, but he did spin off, and Rubens made the brave choice actually of putting those inters on, and it looked horrible after about lap 4, didn't it? He kept his head, won the Grand Prix. My driver of the day.
Rubens Barrichello, driver of the day. I haven't said that too many times this season. It's been quite a quiet championship for Rubens Barrichello, constantly in the shadow of Michael Schumacher. 2nd place in Australia, 2nd in Bahrain, 2nd also in Spain, the Nürburgring, Canada, the United States, where Schumacher nicked the lead off him from the restart. Barrichello on pole on that occasion, but thinking he might win it, but Schumacher was too canny for him on the day. He's finished every Grand Prix this year, all but one of them in the points, and finally, he's got the victory he so richly deserves. I make no apology for being ecstatic when Rubens wins a race. He's one of the nicest people in Formula One, and when he drives like this, as he did at Silverstone last year, and in Japan last year as well, there's very few in Formula One who can touch him for quality and style and sheer pace and bravery.
So as we said earlier on, BAR moving up into second place in the Constructors' World Championship. How much money would you put on that a year ago, James?
Absolutely. Well, they were pretty excited over the winter. They thought they'd found something, and they weren't wrong. There's Gabriella Della Colli, who is the race engineer of Rubens Barrichello, formerly with the Jordan team, made the move across. And those Brazilian girls have had a really good afternoon. They're going to party long into the night, aren't they? The traditional scenes then on the main straight here at Monza. That was a scene of rain and puddles mid-morning here. A lot of long faces at Monza, a lot of people with their Pacamacs, all wondering what they were doing here, nicking keep right or keep left signs and marker boards. A few mementos to take away from the day.
This is a brilliantly effective podium here, as you can read in my new book that's coming out in October. But I was underneath it, and just a couple of days ago looking at it, thinking, I wonder what they've done there. That might be useful at other racetracks. It's a horrible looking thing underneath there. It sort of looks like a bit of angle iron and some dodgy welding. But it gets the drivers out into the pack of ecstatic Ferrari fans, and it really is a wonderful atmosphere down there.
World champions, it says on the flag. The helicopter shots, the people, the crowd, as I say, not as many as we've seen in previous years. Back in 2000, when the Formula One World Championship had been a dream that Ferrari had chased in vain for 21 years. That brought 160,000 people to Monza, all looking to share in that moment. But, well, here this afternoon, Ferrari have put aside the grey clouds. They've seen the silver linings, and this little fella's got some memories that'll stay with him for a long time, as they will with all of us, I think. That was, without doubt, we've had a few good Grand Prix, and that was right up there amongst the best of them. Spa was good, Silverstone was good, Bahrain was a good race. Hopefully China in 2 weeks' time. Brand new circuit in Shanghai will bring us some thrills and spills as well. Looking forward to going there. Tremendous logistical exercise getting the Formula One fraternity into China. A lot of red tape, as you can imagine. A lot of head scratching going on, but from what I've seen of the track, it's going to be certainly going to be a good race.
Television helicopter flying completely in the avoid curve, I would imagine, of where you should be with an, I hope it's a twin loitering over there. But anyway, he's beginning to pull out now, and there is the podium platform we were telling you about.
Little delay getting the drivers out onto the podium. Obviously, shortage of Kleenex for Rubens Barrichello back there behind the scenes. And here he comes. Yes! Schumacher letting Barrichello soak it up, letting him go out first and have his moment. Shows you a little bit of the team spirit. There's a lot said about this relationship in this team, a lot said about how it's all structured to make Schumacher win. Barrichello has to play shotgun. I don't think we'll ever really know the truth of what's in Barrichello's contract, but there's no doubt at all on a day like today that they are a team. The most experienced team in Formula One, the oldest team in Formula One, and the most successful.
Pole position, fastest race lap, new lap record. The victor in a Ferrari at Monza, his 8th Grand Prix victory. Can it get any better than that, James?
No, it's the hat-trick they all dream of. His compatriot Ronaldo scored a few of them, and today Rubens has scored big time here at Monza. His 8th career victory. An emotional hug for teammate Michael Schumacher, who really drove magnificently this afternoon. Constructors' trophy for his race engineer.
Not often you see Michael happy with second place, but he looks genuinely happy up there, doesn't he?
Yeah, what a contrast to 2 weeks ago in Spa. Won the championship, but not happy to finish second to Kimi Raikkonen on the day. But here, he's enjoyed himself. He's driving for pleasure now. The championship's decided. He certainly would have got a lot of pleasure out of this afternoon's race. And what about Jenson Button? His 8th podium of the season. A sporting cheer from the Italian fans for him. Terrific drive for him. Led most of this Grand Prix, let's not forget. And, well, he did what he could. The car just wasn't quick enough for him on the day. But he'll have his day in the future, no doubt about that.
Which overalls will he be wearing next year? Apparently they're meeting, the Contract Recognition Board meeting while we're in China. So we should find out soon, hopefully, if it doesn't go to the law courts.
Well, the Tifosi came here to celebrate the 2 World Championships. The 2 drivers, they gave them a bit of a scare at the start. Looked as though they were handing it to the young guns like Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso, but class paid out in the end. It's another Ferrari 1-2. Rubens hits the gold, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now in Shanghai, China, Formula One's Brave New Dawn.
Indeed we will. Thank you very much indeed to James Allen and to Martin Brundle. What about those Ferraris? They spin, they start on the wrong tyres, but still it is Forza Ferrari, the prancing horse, ruling again at Monza. A hat-trick of home victories for them. But it is Rubens Barrichello, Mr. Consistency, who is a winner for the first time all year. 1-2 here, but celebrations at BAR. David Richards, team boss. He does enjoy a cigar. Louise Griffith, Jenson Button's fiancée, in the background there. You can see why they want Jenson to stay at that team next season. Jenson Button on the podium. Let's go now to Ted Kravitz. He is with Ross Brawn. What a happy fellow, as you might expect. On you go, Ted.
Indeed he is, and he's congratulating the key people, Rory Byrne and Nigel Stepney, in this team. And Ross, a 1-2 at Monza. It reminds you what Ferrari's really about, doesn't it?
Fantastic. I mean, after 5 laps we had a disaster on our hands, and I was thinking that we'd score some points and maybe a podium if we were lucky. But the team is so strong, and the car was fantastic, the tyres were fantastic, and Rubens and Michael just got stuck in, and I'm speechless. I mean, it's unbelievable.
How quickly did you regret starting Rubens on the intermediates?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, Michael fell off, so you know, if Rubens had fallen off as well, we would have been in the same situation. We probably should have pulled him in 1 lap earlier, and there was a bit of confusion on the radio why he didn't come in, because we were then losing time. But it was the worst possible condition for Bridgestone. It's that damp track. We know that's Achilles' heel. So we were a bit stuffed at that stage. But just shows these guys want to win all the time. They didn't give up.
Of course, the celebrations going on in the background here. Look at the guys. But after that, I mean, Michael, probably if he pushed very hard, risked the car, probably could have got Rubens, right?
Well, they raced each other all the way through the race, and all we do at the end of the race is turn the engines down. When we're in a situation where we've got nothing to lose, we have to look after the car and try and make sure the car finishes. And here is the hardest track on engines. So after the pit stops, the last pit stop, I said to the drivers, right, I want the engines turned down and be sensible. So that was it.
Brilliant 1-2. Thank you very much, Ross.
A horrendous start then for Ferrari. It means so much for them to win at home, and a maximum 18 points of 1-2. Rubens Barrichello winning the race, though. Jenson Button on the podium in the BAR, then Sato, Montoya, Coulthard, Pizzoni and Fisichella. We'll be right back after the press conference.
Honda, second for Scuderia, Ferrari Marlboro, Michael Schumacher, and Rubens Barrichello heading Ferrari's 8th 1-2 of the season, and the first Monza hat-trick for Ferrari, winning the Italian Grand Prix. A great result, Rubens. Leading by 6.9 seconds at the end of the first lap, and then in the pits on lap 5.
It was a difficult decision at the start, because when we went to the grid, it was fairly wet. The sun was out. It was basically was going to dry, but when, it was very difficult to know.
I thought that the wets I could open a gap at the first 5 laps that were able for me to really be happy after the pit stops and so on. But it was difficult to know, and on the radio it was a bit of a mess to know, come in or don't, Alonso is doing well, or no, stay out. So it was, I think, a lap too much, too long, to be honest. But everything worked out very well. I mean, there was a point in the middle of the race where I thought it was everything lost, because like Michael overtook me, Pisonia overtook me, and I actually took a gamble yesterday to go a little bit towards the wet setting. So the thing was drying out so quickly, and I had a lot of understeer. But obviously, as the fuel ran down, my car became faster and faster. I was able to push, and I was delighted.
Phenomenally quick in that build-up to what was effectively your third pit stop there.
And I tell you, I didn't see anything. I was just pushing. I felt like yesterday the qualifying lap was tremendous, and I was telling myself, you just push the throttle down, just go as fast as you can. So when I came out of the pit, I had no one in front, no one behind that I could see with my eyes. And then I asked, which position I am? And they said, P1. So then I said something in Portuguese, which I cannot say here now. But it was just a phenomenal feeling. That's why I'm so relieved, but so delighted as well.
But then you did have Michael in your mirrors right at the end of the race there.
Yeah, at that stage, the team told, I think, both of us to conserve the engines a little bit, because we had to push very hard in the middle of the race. So at that stage, I felt quite comfortable, to be honest.
Brilliant drive, congratulations. Michael, P15, I think you were on the first lap. An interesting first lap for you?
Was it even P15? I thought it was completely last, because after the spin, I had to let everybody through in order to get going, because they were coming, and I really had to wait to avoid an accident. But it was an interesting race, yes. Interesting battles I had today. And coming in second during the race, I wouldn't have thought that, because it was difficult to judge who was going to do what, and overtaking the front runners, I wouldn't have expected that would be possible, as pace I thought would have been closer. But our car ran fantastically well, despite the first couple of laps when it was damp, and that obviously gave us the possibilities.
On that first lap, what actually happened? Why did you have those 2 moments?
2? What do you mean 2?
Well, the first chicane, and then I think at the second chicane as well.
Well, at the first chicane, I just couldn't stop the car in time. I mean, it looks like that we struggled a little bit more than the other tyre companies. And so I had to run straight. I then slowed down to let Juan get through. Juan played a little bit smart and slowed down himself to make it look like I am gaining an advantage. Anyway, I kept on going, and then coming into the second chicane, it was just slippery again. I was sliding, got a 4-wheel slide, a nice one. Jensen was on the outside, he couldn't avoid that one, and I just touched with the front wheel slightly on his, I don't know, side pod, which spun me around. So it was just one of those things, they do happen, and in the conditions, it was very difficult. I thought it was the right decision to go with slicks. I knew it was going to be tricky. In the end, you see both cars coming within 1 second, so both decisions seem to be right in a way.
A great drive. And Jensen, a great drive for you too, particularly in those early slippery stages.
Yeah, it was a very interesting race. I didn't think the Ferraris were going to be so strong towards the end of the race, but the pace of these 2 guys was just untouchable. But all in all, it's a fantastic race for us as a team. We've taken second in the championship now in the constructors, 2 points in front of Renault, I think. So it's fantastic. You know, I have to dedicate this podium to them, and also my granddad, who's watching from his hospital bed at the moment. So
we wish him very well.
Thanks.
That last set of tyres you had, was the car any different to how it had been in the earlier stage of the race?
Well, obviously the first set of tyres, we were in the damp conditions. And it's very difficult to feel how the second set of tyres are going to be when the circuit's completely dry. But the balance wasn't too bad. The car seems to run much better on lower fuel towards the end of the stints. That's when the car gets stronger, and that's when I was able to pull out a gap on Alonso and Montoya. So I knew that was to come. So I was pretty positive that we were pretty strong for a podium position at least. I actually thought we had a chance for a win there, but as I said, I didn't know these two guys would be so strong.
Congratulations. Rubens, no doubt an emotional day, not only for you personally, but for the team as a whole. The hat-trick here at Monza and your 8th 1-2 as a team this season. A few final words from you.
Well, no, I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart that I think that's the best season ever. I mean, it was lacking one win, at least for me, and you know, the amount of points, the amount of victories that Michael had, the way we won the constructors, the team is very well, and so this is to them as well. I mean, the way they behave, even though we win races, in half an hour we're going to be in a meeting thinking about the next race already. So I think that's show how they are strong and how we're behaving with their cars. So it's very good thanks to all the team and to all the tifosi, because there was a very good weekend. I just love every moment, and even though we had a time in the middle of the race that we thought it was gone, everything came back, and so that's why we have to believe in life that whenever is your day, it has to be your day.
It was his day today. Graphic illustration there of Ferrari success, already thinking of the next race in China. The 24th Schumacher Barrichello 1-2, but only the 5th in that order. Button and Takuma Sato, a really good day for the BAR team, this one. Then Montoya 5th in the Williams. He's on his way to McLaren next season, where David Coulthard has done himself a fair bit of good by finishing in 6th place. Pitsonia getting the 2nd Williams home in 7th, and Giancarlo Fisichella, the Italian, scoring just 1 point for Sauber. This one is really building up nicely now. Barrichello and Button, it looks as though Rubens Barrichello's going to have to score a few more points to ensure himself of that runners-up spot. Button 3rd. Trulli and Alonso, well, just 1 point between the two, but the way Jarno Trulli's going, you'd back Fernando Alonso to overturn that. Then Montoya close up in the Williams, and the two McLaren drivers, just 4 points between Raikkonen and Coulthard. And if we look at that Constructors' Championship, the big move there is BAR up into 2nd place ahead of Renault. Williams looking good for 4th, although McLaren are just 8 points adrift there. Then Sauber on 29, Jaguar on 10, Toyota 9, Jordan 5, and Minardi with just these single points. We'll be right back. I have to tell you, it hasn't rained during an Italian Grand Prix for nearly 30 years here. They had a lot of rain, though, didn't we, in the build-up to it, and at the start, Tony, what problems that gave everybody, including the Ferraris.
Well, you've also got this very, very fast pit straight there, which funnels into the first chicane, which is about 50, 60 miles per hour, no more, and they go to first gear. Just look at this, unbelievable, and different tyre choices. Someone enters, Michael Schumacher very bravely on dry tyres and just kicking up the water there. Barrichello out ahead. Alonso came rocketing through from 4th place, another of his electric starts, but there's Schumacher going over the apron on the inside, ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya, and then he gives him the place back, but it was all to happen a bit further on in De La Roggia in the 2nd chicane as we get through there. There is Michael Schumacher struggling on the outside. Montoya's gone through, Button coming up as well, and then there is Barrichello, and behind him Michael Schumacher is about to spin off as he's struggling and has a touch with the two cars there. There's Kimi Räikkönen on the inside, there's Button, there's Schumacher. Off he goes, and that causes all sorts of problems for the runners behind. Pitsonia, Panis unfortunately going out and getting stuck, but a breathtaking race, really enjoyable.
Fantastic charge through the field for Michael Schumacher as well. How highly would you put what he did here today?
Well, I was thinking back to when he was teammates with Martin Brundle. We can go back to Spa when he made tyre choices, critical tyre choices on drying tracks at the right time, and absolutely annihilated the opposition. This is one of his best comeback drives from down in 15th position. Only he would relish that challenge of going out there on dry tyres with all the puddles, and goodness knows how wet it was over at the back in the two Lesmos, underneath the trees, very treacherous. It's his supreme car control that took him through that.
Tony, in your career, you have worked extensively in F1 garages. Just tell us the feeling down there when someone says fire.
Well, it's not panic because you're drilled. The mechanic holding the fire extinguisher in Bruni's case knew exactly what he was doing and had it aimed in the right place. Remember Ferrari last year in Austria, but that is a conflagration of enormous proportions, and unfortunately the driver is sucking in some of the flames, some of the extinguishant foam that's going there. Everybody does their job. Nobody runs from their particular station and gets that fire out. Now, I dare say they were all ready to get the car back out there and get Bruni back out there, because Bruni was severely criticised by Stoddard in USA for parking his car when there was nothing wrong with it, but the guy couldn't breathe. He was choked. That spread another 2 or 3 seconds. You could have seen the next pit going up on fire, and we could have had a real disaster on our hands.
Jimmy Bruni, as Tony was saying, trapped in the car for around about a minute, being unable to breathe. He has recovered sufficiently. I'm delighted he can talk to us now.
Well, Gianmaria, obviously a very scary incident for you. You're feeling okay now?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just frustrating. I was doing quite good race, even if we did the early pit stop to change the tires. I was able to challenge with someone, so it's a very bad luck, and feel sorry for the team, for me. Fortunately, everything is fine.
Great to see him fully recovered, Jimmy Bruni. Fernando Alonso's had a good record recently, almost always on the podium in recent races. Tony looked as though he could be heading for another one, and then he spun out.
Well, as you say, he's had 2 podiums in the last 3 races and been doing extremely well. And here we said he's got a very racy strategy, which he showed right from the off, right from the start. But the pressure was on him from Michael Schumacher, who's coming through the field. He either succumbed to that pressure or he had some sort of a problem. Don't touch me, says Alonso, as the marshal tries to guide him carefully. And he has a quick kick of the Armco barrier. He's going to get a kicking from Flavio Briatore unless they find a mechanical fault with that car. Renault will be so upset at losing second place in the Constructors' Championship, so important to any manufacturer.
Very, very upset when we saw him leaving the track there. Let's assess Fernando Alonso's mood now.
Fernando, relentless pace throughout that race. What happened at that vital moment? Was it a loss of concentration, or?
No, it was the car. I was quick. I had not the fantastic grip in the car all through the race. And at the end, I pushed to the limit, and I lost the car probably.
How tough was the race? The fact that you were chasing people chasing you the whole time? Yeah.
Very, very difficult. I think the car was not maybe too competitive today, but because I was in a good position from the start, I pushed even more just to keep the gap close enough to Jenson and to don't lose too many points in the constructors. And I probably did all I could, and didn't finish.
You mentioned the Constructors' Championship. I mean, obviously BAR's result means they've leapfrogged ahead of you. Do you think you can get back up there at the final 3 races?
Yeah, I think so. Because this is the world circuit for us, and we were fighting with them in the other 3. I think we can finish in front of them if we do all right.
Be a good scrap through to the end of the season. That one always pushes to the limit. This time he pushed beyond it, did Fernando Alonso. Absolutely crucial pit stop, wasn't there, Tony? And then we realised that it would be Rubens and not Michael who would win this race. And our own Jenson Button was very much involved in the incident.
Well, I think a lot of people at home would have been rooting for Jenson Button there, and we all thought for a while, could he win? Could he win? And Ferrari inexorably coming through the field. But, Rubens just got out ahead, and then coming down the pit straight, there was Schumacher going ahead of Button, and Klein went straight down the escape road to get out of the way of it, and Jenson went back to 3rd place, but he's still chuffed to get up on the podium.
Sure, before that was Ross Brawn just giving you a little nudge there, by the way. Thanks for that one, Ross. We'll turn his engine off when he wants to start it one of these days or something. But just a word before we hear from the BAR, get an assessment from them. It's been a great day for them here. Just an assessment from you on Jenson Button, the job he did here today. I mean, this shows while Williams and BAR are really fighting tooth and nail for his services.
I think you and I talked about it on Saturday on air, and we said how professional not just the team is, but how Jenson Button is getting on with the job. He's unaffected by it because it's not doing any harm to his driving. The team are all behind him, Honda are all behind him, and he just goes to show by taking this brilliant 3rd place here against the might of the Ferraris, who, let's be honest, are unbeatable as a package. He'll carry on. It's going to be interesting to see if they abide by the decision of the Contracts Recognition Board, which Dave Richards said could come out before China.
Right, let's hope so, because that decision can't come soon enough as far as we are concerned. Right, in a BAR reaction, it comes from Jeff Willis.
Well, Jeff, that was very well done on third place. Did you think Rubens might have to get out of the way?
Oh, it was an excellent result for the team. Certainly puts us in a very good result for the championship. I think we were the best of the rest, but clearly Ferrari and off again in a league of their own. It looked good for us partway through the race, but then the laps Michael was able to pull out and Barrichello were very impressive indeed.
This does move you up to second in the Constructors' Championship ahead of Renault.
Yes, certainly it's very good for us. So excellent drive from both drivers, and just well done to the whole team.
Yes, well done to BAR. Ron Dennis, we've been featuring your McLaren team throughout the weekend. Sum up your weekend for us out there on the track, could you?
It's pretty disappointing. I think we had the ability to win the race. You go away sometimes knowing you don't have pace, but with Kimi, I possibly sprung a water leak. He had some impact in the first chicane. There's a few people pushed around, and just had a small water leak from the radiator, so it was sort of an agonising slow death, and really no point in failing the engine when we knew the outcome was inevitable. David was quite adamant it was going to stay wet under the trees for long enough to go onto the intermediate tyres, so that's what he chose to start the race on, and we switched into a one-stop strategy when we went to the dry tyres, but it wasn't enough to get him any higher than sixth. Some points, but we're not here to get points, we're here to win.
Sure, I know you would say it is motor racing, but how hard is it for you, bearing in mind the success you had at Spa with Kimi, that he comes here and he suffers yet another breakdown?
The emotional helter-skelter of Grand Prix racing, something that I've experienced for several years, so you become a little bit resilient to it, but as most people know, I really suffer on the Monday morning. That's when it's going to really hit home. But it's about 15 minutes of sympathy, and then it's back to work. And we've got a highly motivated Grand Prix team. We're very focused on winning races this year, and I think we can win at least another race, maybe more. And so that's what we'll do. We'll go to China and do our best there, and then take it a step at a time. But we're not going to go away. We know what winning's all about. We've won plenty of World Championships, and we're certainly going to win them in the future.
David Coulthard has scored a couple of points for you here. He had a moment with Antonio Pizzonia that you might be able to have a look at here, and give us your views on what happened in this one, Ron.
Well, obviously Antonio was leaving his braking somewhat late, and what he lacked in brakes he managed to use David's car to slow him down the final bit, and spun. But as you can see, the car's pretty strong and resilient, and David escaped unscathed.
Just a word from you about David Coulthard. He will not be with you next season. He has been a real loyal servant to you. What would you say to any prospective employers of David Coulthard out there?
Well, he's first of all and above all else, he's a friend, and that makes difficult decisions more difficult to take. He is an excellent racing driver, more than capable of winning Grand Prix. He's been very loyal to the team, and we will, in our way, continue to be loyal to him. And in or out of a McLaren, he'll always be welcome at McLaren. And it's by no means sure that he'll leave McLaren, but we hope he finds the drive, and if he does, we'll wish him well.
Listening to you closely there, if he doesn't find another driver, you might find him a little role as a test driver or something like that, or am I jumping the gun?
I think, when we've spoken about it, as I've said to David, he should focus on being a racing driver. That's what he wants to be, and as and when that's impossible for him, we'll sit down and talk.
We appreciate the accommodation you've given us throughout the weekend, Ron. Thanks very much. Best of luck for the season. Thank you. Right, let us join Louise Goodman.
Well, David, some interesting strategy decisions. Did it pan out for you? How did it pan out for you?
Well, obviously it wasn't what we intended, but when we've tested here, it's the typical thing. When we've tested here in the wet, it's taken quite a while to dry under the trees. So you have to make a decision before, obviously, you know what everyone else is doing. And I was pretty sure that it was going to be damp for at least the first 4 or 5 laps there. The time I did the installation lap to the grid, it was completely safe to be on slicks. So that's why I called to come in and start from the pit lane. Maybe we could have finished a little bit higher had I started from the grid, but I think that the one stop enabled us to leapfrog people anyway.
A tricky moment towards the end of the race there with Pizzonia.
Yeah, that was inevitable. I wish I could have talked to you, because from about 10 laps out, I could have said he's going to try something silly at some point. These cars have got one line under braking, and unless you've slipstreamed by someone in a straight line, you can't outbrake them. And I saw when I came off Parabolica, he was relatively close, so I said he's bound to have a go this lap. But obviously you can't drive a corner whilst watching your mirrors, so checked in the braking, he was still in position, did my braking, and then when the impact came, to be honest, I was ready for it. It's just trying to make something out of nothing. It's a bit silly.
He's one of the classiest acts in Formula One, one of the classiest drivers as well. Surely someone will open their doors for him next season, won't they, Tony?
I think he's still talking to quite a few people. That was a great gritty drive today, and as you said, that won't have done him any harm. He's talking to BAR, he's talking to Jaguar. Someone will buy a lot of experience there, and I think out of the shadow of Big Ron and the grey uniform, I think he'll flourish.
Great day for BAR, one of those teams that David Coulthard has been talking to. Jenson Button third, and in fourth place, Takuma Sato.
Takuma-san, great race for us to watch. Good race for you as well.
I think, every spectator love it, this race. I mean, it started with dump conditions, so many things happen. By the end of the day, we are rising up a second on the Constructors' Championship. That's the most important thing, so I'm very happy.
You must have had to keep on it, keep your concentration throughout that entire race, because it was really neck and neck, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not physically hardest race, this track, but also you need a super accurate. You had lots of concentration, especially these conditions. So, but I really enjoyed the race, and the end of the result was fantastic.
Coming home behind two Ferraris, the World Championships, that's got to be the best you could hope for, really, or did you think you could stay ahead of them?
No, I don't think stay ahead of them, but I think. It was great, it's great, obviously, bring back to them home with a second Construct Championship, and obviously last three races is going to be really exciting one.
Well done.
Thank you.
One of the most entertaining drivers in Formula One. We have had great entertainment throughout the day here at Monza, Tony.
It's been superb. The 8th 1-2 of the year for Ferrari, and at the Parabolico, all the Ferrari workforce were there in their own grandstand, really enjoying their day. But a lot of the challengers were snapping very closely at their heels, so has the Red Dog had its day? Can the others start winning next year or even before the end of this season?
Great to see Rubens doing it for once.
Yeah, and he's got an Italian grandfather as well, so he's a little bit Italian, and he'll be celebrating tonight.
OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, it was such a good feeling after the third stop when I was asking where I am, where am I, and then they say you come down, you're P1. I say, whoa, unbelievable.
We did a fabulous job to get the cars back in 1-2 after all this casino in the first lap, and with Rubens's early stop for tyres. It wasn't easy to come back in that position. It's because we worked very well here, we tested, we prepared very well our car, and thanks to that we were able to win.
In the damp conditions, it's always tough to find your feet and really figure out where the wet patches are, and I think I did that well, coming up from 7th to 3rd. So yeah, I was pretty chuffed for the first stint.
You led for a while, but those Ferraris just too strong for you in the end. Was that always going to be the case?
Well, I didn't know that they were close until I looked in my mirror and I saw Michael coming up. And they're in a league of their own. I mean, it's just staggering. The speed that Michael had when he came past me, I just could not believe it.
We came here with the objective of putting some points on Renault and getting up to, or closing the gap to second in the championship. Obviously 11 points, and them not scoring has done the job for us, so fantastic.
Exciting next race for you. It is the first ever Chinese Grand Prix. You can catch qualifying 3 o'clock on the Saturday. The race live 6 o'clock on the Sunday morning, the rerun at 2 in the afternoon, and the highlights around midnight. It is an exciting new territory and a brand new audience to appreciate Ferrari, the most successful team in the history of Formula One. Bye-bye.